Welcome to the income stream with Pat Flynn after show Afterglow with yours truly, April 2.0. And with me tonight is my confidant, co host, and the voice of net friending, Roy Montero. Hi, Roy.
Hi, April. So, yeah, this we're starting our second week of doing the after show Afterglow for Pat Flynn's The Income Stream, which he is on day 35 today. Yeah, and you've got that in your head, and so do I. So it's the Income Stream with Pat Flynn after show Afterglow, where we kind of sort of go over things that stood out for us and the other people that might join us on the show that stood out for them, because it's a way for everybody to shine, so to speak, in a very healthy way. We want to shout out other people that we have met through Pat's tribe, because that's just what happens when two or more people follow the same tribe leader and they find each other and they go, oh, you follow Pat also? Oh, so, and the next thing you know, you're deep into the conversation and you are befriending each other, not making friends. You can't do that. You know, when your parents used to tell you, go make friends. No, because if you want to make me your friend and I don't want to be your friend, there's nothing you can do to make me your friend, but you can do everything you can to befriend me and be friendly towards me, for me. So I'm going to turn it over to April because April's got something planned for us today. So April, wait, before we do that, let me show what's going on the show today. So let me go here. And this is 1 minute and 25 seconds into the show. And let's hear what Pat had to say.
Mike and Isabella from Music Radio Creative for that. What's up, Jennifer in the house? Welcome, Martin. Really excited to see what I learned from all of you today. And that's right, Martin, it's not just me. It's learning from all of you together because the community is fantastic. Make sure you're clicking away or typing away. And if you're watching on mobile, I know that's a little bit harder, but hey, thank you for being here. Some of you are even watching me on the large screen in your living rooms and TV, which is kind of crazy. But by the way, thank you for doing that. And if you happen to have kids around you, don't worry. I keep this show clean. I got kids of my own. It's one of the reasons why I don't recommend Gary Vaynerchuk to my kids because, you know, he's got a potty mouth a little bit. But me, my mouth's pretty clean. Although it might smell a little bit. I'm not going to swear for you. So, hey.
So April, I'm going to play a little bit more because he also shouts you out, and that's I love that. You know, you've been on his radar for the last 2 days over the weekend, and you gave him a super chat of which is going to the homeless in San Diego or whatever charity that he's sharing that with. But super chat is certainly a nice way to get on his radar, especially when there's a lot of people that are doing the same thing you're doing, and that is commenting. And so one of the things that you do, which I do all the time, is if we have a question, we put question either the way you do it with a title cap, or the way I do it, it's like all in caps, so he can easily find it when he scrolls back and forth, because he doesn't have time to read everything to know if it's a question or not, because there's a lot of people that are posting comments, and I'll make quotes around it, that are not questions. And so how Pat does it is amazing. If he had like a moderator or an administrator to queue him up with some of the questions that they find very valuable, because like we found out yesterday from Jonathan, Pat only put up his question one time, and that was when he gave him a super chat. And all the other times he didn't, because there's so many other people. So they're all vying for Pat's attention, you know, getting on his radar, so to speak. So I wanted to show that he is putting up your comment this morning for whatever reason, because he hadn't before, and you hadn't been a staple, so to speak, here on the show, but you did enter into his radar, in my humble opinion, over the weekend because of your super chats and what you said and the amount of time he invested, not spent, on answering your question yesterday. And you measured it was like 8 minutes, and that is well and beyond what Pat normally does. So I just wanted to bring that to people's attention. But first, I wanted to say, April, do you have anything with Gary V and how he called out Gary V? But that's who Gary V is, and Pat loves Gary. He's just not going to introduce Gary to his kids at this point in time because they're 10 and 7, and a lot of parents don't. But then a lot of parents do because they don't have any problem with Gary's potty mouth because that's just natural language for them. They don't see it as a potty mouth. So, thoughts on that?
I get it. And it also saddens me because Gary being Gary does then miss out on the opportunity to impact our youth, because there are a lot of parents who won't allow their kids to listen to him. Although he was doing curse-free Gary V a while back. I don't know if that ever really took off because so many people like him because he's him. And when you take that cursing off and you filter him, it's like, who are you? So, I mean, if he still has the curse-free Gary V show, then by all means introduce him to your children, because he has a lot of valuable things to share. So that's my 2 cents.
Yes, he is quite the contrarian. So let me finish with the introductions or the hellos.
Hey, let's have some fun. Let's see who else is in the house. We got Ursula, Chris. Hello, team, says Chris. Came in on the 3rd day, says Ursula. Jennifer, hi, Pat. Welcome from Raleigh. Bruh. No, just Sampson. I need to find a friend with some barber experience. We're talking about barbers, right? Crazy. I don't know how I'm going to cut my hair eventually. I think April's going to cut it for me. Anyway, Corey in the house, not sure, but I may have been on all of them. I think you might have. Aubrey, welcome in. Dan in the house. Welcome, Dan. Thanks for being here today. We got Jonathan, a.k.a. the Travel Tourist, Professor of Perseverance, Kalpana in the house, WPE.
Go back. Did Jonathan have his picture?
He did.
Yes! Go, Jonathan!
Let's highlight that as much as we can. So there's Jonathan, a.k.a. the Traveled Tourist. And so we gave him some new information yesterday when he joined us on the show as a viewer. And he might be on again tonight. That would be great if he could acknowledge. So Pat didn't say anything beyond that because Pat is used to seeing him with his logo or his non-face profile and without his voice. But today, because of the after show yesterday and our never manipulating, always persuading, and he did mention and say that April is very persuasive. Let me say it like that. So I'm going to go and ask April for some. Yeah, he's saying good morning to Ellen, and there he's got his lovely profile and his name. Well, at least his first name. So it's still hard to look him up on the internet, unless, of course, you couple that with the Traveled Tourist, and hopefully he put his name and the Travel Tourist on his pages to be found in the search engine. Yes, go with your butt.
But so I remember seeing that this morning, and the thing goes so fast, and especially if you're looking off to the side to the chat and you just catch a glimpse of what's on the screen. I recognized that it said Jonathan, a.k.a. the Travel Tourist, whereas prior on Pat's stream, when he would bring Jonathan's comments up, it would just say the Travel Tourist. So I did recognize that he was using the same account that he used last night, but he could have, after he left here last night, reverted back to his logo instead of his photo, his persona himself. It just didn't register that he left his photo on there. And just knowing that he changed it to Jonathan, aka the Travel Tourist, for a split second, I thought Pat was going to say something. And I was hoping.
And that's what I predicted last night, is that he would say something. It's like, oh, look, I now see Jonathan's name and I see his photo. That's what I predicted he would say. But because he's just kind of going through them very quickly, but he could have just said that. It would have taken like 5 seconds to say that. Yeah, I expected him to say something like that, but he may still do it though.
And the thought may have gone through his head, like, oh, like I know who you are, and you added your name, and you may have,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
maybe he didn't in that moment know how to quite say what he was thinking, so he
How to
just said,
segue? Yes,
yeah,
I totally agree with that. Yes, and let's see if he does, because I do want to watch the rest of the show still afterwards. So, yeah, but I wanted to, yeah, acknowledge that because I didn't catch it earlier. But if I did, it just subconsciously didn't register. So let me go back and finish because I just want to make sure that out of all the people that said hello to each other and to Pat in the morning before the show, because I think he opens up the show. I don't even know how early you can get on and start the waiting room as it's known. Because you came on 40 minutes earlier the other day, and I think some people come on an hour earlier
yeah,
to start chatting. So it does have, though, I noticed it has the timestamps as I was attempting to capture the comments from yesterday's show. It'll show the comments.
yeah,
Um, and it showed them like 3 minutes before. It'll have a minus 3 minutes prior to the actual show, which is kind of cool now. So it doesn't do it any earlier than that. So I'd have to actually be live to capture those comments because it doesn't stay more than 3 minutes earlier. I just
yeah.
noticed that. Anyways, here, let's go.
Travel tourist, professor of perseverance, Kalpana in the house, WP Eagle, and April. What's up, April? Welcome in. Thank you so much.
That's okay.
Okay, so I want to go back and see if everybody caught this.
And April. What's up, April? Welcome in. Thank you so much.
So what did you notice? Like for those of you who don't know us really well, so April and I, we do this thing we call body language 2.0 and beyond. It's hashtag blab with a 2 in the middle, body language 2.0 and beyond. And we do it the net friending way. So all of us do what we refer to as a hashtag blab with a 2 in the middle. We all do it. Most of us, probably 99.9% of us, do it silently in our own heads. And that is, we either judge the person or we assess the person. And judging a person is never a good thing because judging, to me, the definition is you make up a thought in your head about the other person and then you assume it or presume it to be true without asking them. Hey, Roy, I presume you to be arrogant instead of confident. So are you arrogant or are you confident? They won't ask me. They will just presume or assume that I am arrogant and leave it at that and then treat me as if I'm arrogant. April, is that true? Is that what you found in the 4 years that people have taken seats with us and they probably do the same thing of you, but they might not use the arrogant, confident. They may use manipulative, persuasive, just like we had that issue of life with Deborah. And you said, I'm getting the icky vibe from you. And before she even asked what that was or what she could do about it or what that meant, she assumed and presumed that you were saying something negative about her that could not be alleviated, that could not be talked through and unpacked and then rectified. She just decided to be your enemy and, yeah, ran for the hills. So that was her assuming that you weren't being persuasive but manipulative in what you just said. Can you help me with that?
Yeah,
How do
there's
we?
just some people who don't want to work it out. They don't want to go there with you. They'd rather just make the assumption, give you a what for, and then run fast. It's just easier. You don't have to put in any effort.
Right. Those are the people who believe everything they think. And when I ask people, do you believe everything you think? And they say yes with a straight face, then I have to go, oh my goodness. Okay, this is going to be a person that is going to be somewhat difficult to help to course correct their stinking thinking and junk in the trunk about me because they make assumptions and presumptions about me that are not true. And so with that in mind, yeah. So Christoph just said that he's having some mic issues, so he may jump on or not. So Yeah, be you, Christoph. If you're watching the show at all, if you're seeing this at all, then yeah, just be you.
Okay, so let's not get too far away from why you're even bringing up what a blab is.
Right, because we're going to blab what, and I'm going to bring it back up since people already forgot. We're going to blab uh, Pat on what he just did in bringing up everybody's comment before yours and what he had to say about them, and then what he said about yours. So, did you catch it? Watch this.
Goal and April. What's up, April? Welcome in. Thank you so much. Let's see.
And April.
No,
April.
I heard and April.
Okay. I heard and April.
No.
So he saved you for last, is what the and is. He said,
wow, you're really stretching tonight, my friend.
He said, welcome so-and-so, first and last name, first and this and that, Jonathan and AKA the Traveler. Read everything. He didn't say and April Roga. He said and April. He only used your first name. Now, April, what is it that we do on Facebook when we want to mention someone or tag someone and we use the @ symbol and their name?
Hold on. Now I got to hear this all over again because I totally missed everything that you're saying.
All right, so I'll back it up about 20 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Listen to how he brings up people's names.
In the house, not sure, but I may have been on all of them. I think you might have. Aubrey, welcome in. Dan in the house. Welcome, Dan. Thanks for being here today. We got Jonathan, AKA the Travel Tourist, Professor of Perseverance, Kalpana in the house, WP Eagle, and April. What's up, April? Welcome in. Thank you so much. Let's see.
So in my mind, I would have heard him say, and April Roga. Hey, April, how you doing? How's it going? Blah, blah, blah. But he didn't because the other times, Sorry, go ahead.
This is fascinating to me that you're getting all of this out of that because I'm usually like right there with you, right there. This time,
the other times over the weekend, it was always April Roga, and today, he did mention some people's first names the way he did. He was just basically shouting them out, hi, and for me, and I could be biased.
You are.
Probably am.
You are.
But if I were to ask Pat, which maybe one day we will, and then he'll go, oh, I don't remember what I was thinking that day. I was like, because this was the first 2 days on the weekend that he really got to know you in a deeper way because he unpacked your questions in such a deep way, and he used the air fryer to do it. You asked him about a pilot program. I mean, these are questions that haven't come up before, that people haven't asked before, because usually when a person asks a question, it's the same 20 questions, if you will, that people ask, that Pat knows exactly how to answer, and sometimes he'll answer it exactly the same way he did 3-4 times ago, or he'll mix it up a little bit. But he hears all the same questions asked of him. So when you came around and asked the pilot program question, he made the inference and to use the air fryer and meal preparation for you, because the question that he asked earlier, what was the last significant purchase that you made? And he put yours up. So if I go back into the history of the questions and the answers for his reverse Q&A, I don't know how many people he brought up, 8, 10, 12 people's answers, but maybe 30, 40, 50 people, because there were like 150 plus concurrent viewers on at that time when he asked the reverse Q&A question. So he could have brought up any number of people's, but he brought up yours. It was top of mind with the air fryer, and then he related it. So he's got a pretty good working knowledge of who you are and a little bit of your blank. The air fryer, the significant purchase, the correlation for a pilot program. He personalized it like I do with things. So I'm thinking he's got a good working knowledge of who April Roga is today. And so he saw your hello or welcome or whatever read what you said.
I said, my nonverbal son with autism loves this song. And so that was an old comment from when the intro was playing.
Right. And so that wasn't even recent to where he is in the 2 minute and 55-second like spot on his show. He saw it as it came through, so he probably went, oh, I'm going to put this up and so on and so forth. So you didn't even say anything like hello somebody else, hello Pat. You just made a comment about your son and his song, and he saw fit to bring it up. He didn't even read the comment. He just said hi to you. So that's what I caught, and I just wanted to bring that up. I didn't want to belabor the point too much, simply because I believe I'm biased that he brought you up. And I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention that what I helped April with when she first met me 4 years ago, I'm all about personal branding. So April, tell people how you showed up with your profile, the name that you were using, the picture that you were using, and then I told you the same thing I tell people today. Please use your name and please use your face. You were using bursting?
I was using the handle bursting with autism because when I went into this platform, created a profile, at the time I had a page on Facebook called Bursting with Autism. It was how I wanted to be remembered because I was advocating for people with autism as a mom. And then I realized bursting with autism as my own name, people are going to probably think I'm the one who has autism because it sounds that way. But I wasn't using my name, and the photo that I had, the smile was kind of forced. It wasn't like a belly laugh type of smile. It was more like a say cheese. Yeah, I was showing up smaller. Not too small, but I don't know. What was your perspective back then?
That you weren't confident, that you didn't know how to promote and brand yourself, because one of my one-liners is if you don't brand yourself, someone else will. And so even after that platform, the blab.im platform, had vanished off the face of the earth, and you had found other platforms, people from that platform who also joined you on the newer platforms that you were on, as we were looking for a home, a virtual home, would say, hey, bursting with autism, even though you were now using April Roga. So they would still remember you as that. Remember that, April?
It took a while to shed that branding. A while.
So something I always say, brand yourself or, someone else will, and you may not like it. Or if you brand yourself incorrectly to start with, sometimes, like April just said, it takes a while for that shedding of that brand to go away, which is normal, which is typical.
Oh. And especially if you're in an environment like we were on Blab, where the same people showed up all the time, they're constantly seeing that. So it gets like seared into your memory, just like in Pat's live stream. He's seeing the same people show up every day. And so like the traveled tourist, I'm actually surprised that didn't come out of his mouth by misstepping, just by being on autopilot of having seen that name every day. Things just become what they are.
And so let me say this, the last thing I'm going to say about the branding, the personal branding, and then we'll move on to what April had prepared for us tonight. So April, wouldn't you say that the two platforms, you and I have said it often, the YouTube platform and the Facebook platform, they basically for us came out at the same time, 2004 for Facebook, 2006 for YouTube. So they came out basically at the same time. They're like different planets. What I mean by that is the first thing is on Facebook, you will rarely, if ever, find people who don't have a photo and just their name. You won't see their handles, AKA the travel tourist, or Smarty Pants 59, that kind of thing. You won't see that on, at least not the circles I travel on Facebook. They may be there, but not in the circles I travel. And so if Pat were holding this on his Facebook channel, people would have their photos and their name more so than what they do here, some avatar and or a nickname. Would you concur with me on that?
Yes. Because YouTube is not, it's not social. It's not really meant to be social. It's meant to consume content. And then just because Facebook was doing what Facebook was doing and YouTube wanted to get in on the action with the implementation of live and chat and all that, they were like, well, we got to keep up with the Joneses, so we'll just add the chat in there. But it wasn't really designed with that in mind. So it's a different world.
It is a different world to me as well. Christoph, welcome.
Hello.
Hi, I don't know if you caught us. Yeah, your mic is working fine and everything is fine. We hear you just loud and clear. So we're on the sub.
It is working well, but it seems like it's going to blow out my monitor speaker. So give me just a second.
All right, absolutely. And so if you can still hear the sound of my voice, what we're talking about at this point in the game is that YouTube and Facebook are like two different planets for me. And April just concurred that it's two different planets for her, in the sense that if Pat were holding this on Facebook, we would see people's faces in their profiles and their names in the profiles more so than what we're seeing here on YouTube, because YouTube, we have avatars that are not their photos and nicknames that may be nothing to do with them except for the travel tourist. I get that. That would be better than Smarty Pants 58.
Oh, Smarty.
So what do you think about that? Do you concur that they seem to be two different planets, two different environments, and people who are usually on Facebook are not on YouTube, and vice versa, except for the rare breed like April and myself and maybe yourself? We don't know. Do you use YouTube and Facebook equally?
All right, hold on.
Ooh, that sounds better.
We're trying to actually... All right, there we go. I hate using headphones, but it might have to be what we do today.
No worries, be you. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, there we go. It's a catch-22, right? Obviously, Pat, for whatever reason, is trying to... I don't know the right word. I don't want to say monetize, but monopolize, if that's even a word. His goal is to spend most... I mean, he could easily do this on Facebook, but for whatever reason, and again, he's much smarter at the marketing aspect of this business than I ever will be at this point. He's obviously chosen to do it on YouTube for some reason. There is some aspect of it, and I, as you look and you think and you hear all the different aspects or the different attitudes or positions, if you would, about creating your own group or having it on YouTube or whatever. I know a lot of people whenever the algorithm was changed for Facebook.
What time? Oh.
Yeah, right. With Facebook, whenever the algorithm was changed from the group interaction type of a thing, I have groups that I'm a member of that I haven't seen in my feed months. And unless I am an active participant in that group, they don't even radar. They're not even there. Whereas if I'm a subscriber to that YouTube channel, and again, it might be the same. I don't think I have anybody that I don't have clicked the bell to be notified, because I don't follow that many. I'm not subscribed to that many people. Because there are too many, I could be subscribed to every channel and that would just get annoying. But isn't that kind of where Facebook, and I don't know, I'm just jumping in blind here. I didn't even hear any of this before. So if I'm smacking either of you around on my opinion. I apologize if that's the direction you were going. Like that. Hit him with a brick. The Facebook group, I was in so many at one time that then all of a sudden it was like, what is the point in being on 35 different groups on Facebook, where a lot of them were, a good majority of them were the same people? It got repetitive. You'd have one person who was, I don't know if I want to use the word overachiever or over annoyer, and they would literally copy paste and they would blast it out to every group that they were ever in. And because I was in a group with them multiple times, I'd see the same thing 4 times. It's like, honestly, like, okay, I don't want to be in here. I don't want to be in here. It became another spam bot personally. So I've disassociated myself from groups on Facebook other than the ones I actively want to participate in. Does this remotely answer the question?
I don't even remember the question, but I think it had something to do with Pat's. I don't remember. What was the question about YouTube versus Facebook?
A lot of it had to do with the
different planets.
Yeah.
They're different planets to me. So,
which do you prefer, Roy?
Excuse me?
Which do you prefer?
That's a great question because I love them both.
Oh, bull crap. I'm putting you on the spot. Which one?
I know. So, okay. So if I had to choose between one or the other.
Yep.
Where am I going to build my community? One or the other.
One dies today, one of them lives today. You can't.
Right.
It is what
right.
It is.
Or I have to choose. They both live on, and I have to choose. Sure. I have to choose Facebook.
Okay.
And the reason I choose Facebook is because YouTube doesn't have groups. Mm-hmm. They don't have a place where we can assemble like Facebook groups and do that 24/7. Yes, they have. This is the closest thing that Pat is doing to what I deem for YouTube to have as a community, a group, a tribe, where people can assemble and connect with each other, but they only do it at a certain time during the day while that person is live. You can't do it. You can't go and comment here afterwards and have that community. So for that aspect alone, until YouTube gets that, I'm with Facebook.
Okay. So take Rap and Combat, Ernest. If Ernest wouldn't have done the Slack group, would it still be as effective as it is now?
No.
Yeah, I have to say hugely no as well, because a lot of the things that come out in the live stream chat before and during, a lot of it, more than the majority of it, has to do with the people inside the Slack group or yet to be inside the Slack group because they've built a rapport. And so you, Christoph, came in a little later, meaning after we've already built a rapport. We had a rapport of 2 or 3 days, and then I just made that post of yours, and I let you know that in our inner circle, which is not very active, but it's there when we need it to be there. If we need to say, hi, boo, or here's the link to the show, there it is, and people know to look at it, right? But it's not like it's a constant roll of comments from everybody so we get to know each other. That's what the Slack group is there for right now. And you said, send me an invite. I want to be part of that Slack group, right? So I really never unpacked that with you, but it was me letting the people in the Slack group know, hey, if you want to be a TV 2.0 talk show host, and I said podcast host, then you need to listen to what, our new friend or friend to be, Christoph, just did and said, because I was blown away. So I wanted to make that known. I put you out there in a group that you weren't even a part of yet, and then you wanted to be a part of that. You want to go into that for a second so that people will know why you joined, if you joined because of that, or maybe that was the deciding moment. You and April hash this out.
Yeah, you bet. Oh, put her on the spot. Hi, April.
I'm just here to listen. I want to know the answer.
Oh, no. You're driving the boat. This is you. Come on.
I know, but I want to know the answer. So I'll ask you probably 10 questions after you answer.
You'll ask me 10 questions after. All right. I think everybody's different. So let's take any day of Pat's. So do you know how, this is a question, this is kind of a how-to question, do you know how to find how many comments, like if I were to comment on a regular YouTube video, you can see how many comments there are. Is it possible to see how many comments there were on a live? This maybe is, for anybody. I don't know if that's possible or not, to be able to see. Let me just make sure that this doesn't play the sound.
You can open the transcript.
Okay. But would you have to?
So the answer to the question, the answer to the question is no. They don't give you a count.
Okay.
Of how many, but if you're someone who does a deep dive, like I have, like I can copy and paste all of the comments, and then of course I can, see how many there are with the text editor that I have, and that's what I was doing on Sunday show, which I haven't finished yet. And you can only receive the comments about 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes into it. Every time you have to just slide 2.5 minutes into the future, and then you get the new comments, because they don't all pop up at once and you can go copy paste all at one time. They just come up as the live stream is playing. You understand what I'm saying? So on Facebook, that's why I say they're two different planets. On Facebook, you can have a running of all of the chat all at one time without having to go and do 2.5 minutes or whatever into it. But there's a feature you can do the most recent, you can do from the start or the most relevant, and you can do as it is real time to what's playing on the screen. And when you go back and forth 2 or 3 minutes, 2 or 20 or 30 minutes, the chat will correspond to what's in real time. So
got it.
The comments are way better on Facebook. That's another reason I would gravitate towards Facebook right now, because their tools are more conducive to what I want to do in building community. So no, they don't have a distinct count. Okay, I'm back up.
All right. So that was a great answer, because I didn't know the answer. So because of that, if I just happen to stumble upon, you okay? Bang your knee on something?
Banging my
I hate that. So because of that, someone coming in blind, meaning not a part of the Slack group, not a part of your show, just kind of stumbled upon Pat for whatever reason. They landed on the homepage. The chat on the side is rabid. Is the word I would use. It is people who are 100% pro Pat. They're excited, they're motivated, they love what he says. Some disagree, which is fine. That's normal. But there's a lot of intensity there. But without that, it's just a video with, I just pulled up his Monday Q&A day 35, and it has 11 comments. And technically, Grandma Goody is back. Okay, so Grandma Goody had disappeared for a while. There were a couple days where she didn't have her whatever it was called, kind of her recap. I was curious as to why. Just was interested. 11 comments though, right? And if I were to gather, let's see.
Today's day 35.
So that would have been 6 hours ago. Yep, that's true. So that was this morning. So this morning I just pulled it up on YouTube. Monday Q&A with Pat Flynn, the income stream, day 35. Now again, the live chat is off the hook.
Oh yeah, you're talking about okay. I see.
Yep. The live chat is off the hook, but the regular kind of, I don't know, more permanent chat, I guess, or the one that is always there is 11, and Pat Flynn has responded to 1, 2, 3. So I'm just going to take a stab here and say, if your goal is to get a response from Pat, your odds are better on leaving a comment on the page versus posting it in the chat. Just on statistics, right? I mean, 11 responses, but you actually have to take out 3 of those. So there really were only 8 comments, one of them being Grandma Goody. So now we're down to 7, and he responded to 3 of them. And he did it actually, if you look at it, he did it in the last 40 minutes.
He did.
When he responded to them. So, again, just kind of looking at the interaction, you have rabid fans who are in the live chat who
super
love it.
fans. They're super.
They're
fans.
super fans. They're rabid.
Rabid super fans.
It honestly happens so fast. And again, you and I've had this conversation where my brain doesn't work as fast as the chat. So I will see someone say, "Hey," and then I'm already scrolled up. I'm gone. And I then have to go, okay, hold on, stop. So for me, I have to disconnect from Pat. I'm not listening. And I have to go over and I have to scroll up and I have to try to find my name. I'm like, oh, hey, okay. Then I respond. And then I kind of jump back in. So for me, the chat on the side is going gangbusters. But I have really, for the most part, the Q&A that I've participated in the last little while, I have disconnected from the chat because I'm disconnected from Pat when I'm in the chat. I can't do both.
Yeah, I think we were talking about that last night or the night before. I don't remember. There's so many. We were just talking about that it's hard to do both.
Yep. It is hard to do both.
Who was here the other night? Because it wasn't you. Was it you?
No. I'm typically out on the weekends for sure. I try to disconnect from everything electronic. I have 4 kids, man. I have to spend time playing games or Foursquare or getting hit in the face with a ball. You name it. That's my goal over the weekend.
So, oh my gosh, I don't know. I've been taking muscle relaxers this week.
Oh, good for you.
But we were saying that you have to make a choice, and sometimes, like if Pat's talking about Stream Deck and you have no interest in Stream Deck, then okay, I'll just play in the chat then.
Sure.
And then just kind of toggle back and forth like that until something catches your ears.
So, April, why do you think he's playing on YouTube instead of Facebook then? Why do you think he's doing so?
Because all the people in his circles are.
Okay.
That's who he hangs with, or it could just be that's where he started. Like for us, it's Facebook. We started there. That's like home base for us, and we're comfy there.
Yeah.
So that could be another reason.
And
he did say today, because I watched the show.
Hey,
I was in class.
You were in class.
Somebody asked him, I think it was Ern, about if IG opens up for him to use that, because he said that there is something called Yellow Duck through Ecamm. I don't know what that whole connection is, but something called Yellow Duck allows you to access Instagram's API to go live through Ecamm.
Okay.
He asked Pat, is that something that he would be interested or consider doing? And Pat said, no. Because he chose one place, and it's called YouTube.
Did he expound on why?
Probably, but I was over in the chat.
Okay. Because if you look at Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn on Facebook, his last post was March 27th. There was not a lot of, and then before that it was March 24th, and it was basically, hey, I'm over on YouTube, come over and find me over here. So it doesn't seem as regular.
Yeah.
I'm curious to find out. He made a statement, and I've been meaning to pop on and ask, but he had made a comment, and I forget the episode. So Roy, if you're if there's a way of having, I know you search the chat and do a really good job at it. But he had said that he was watching some what quote unquote influencers who had gone silent during this time. And this was one of the reasons why he had committed to go 100 days, because he wanted his voice to be heard, and he was interested as to why, or curious. He never really kind of came out with the, A, who it was, and B, kind of, what the point was. But I've noticed a lot of quote unquote influencers who, it's almost as if they're not the main show, they don't have anything to say.
Say
Thoughts?
that again. If they're not the main show, they don't have anything to say.
Uh-huh.
So let me see if I understood what you meant by that.
Yes, please.
So we are under sort of a, let's use the word quarantine, because that's what this all is. Quarantine Pat Flynn. This is
Yes.
the team that we are all at home for one reason or another. April still has her job. Fortunately, thank you, Lord, that she didn't lose her job or get cut back or whatever. And she was working from home, maybe even more efficiently and maybe even more happily for the last 3.5 weeks than she would have at the office, so to speak. So that's our situation. But a lot of people's situations are not like that. A lot of people's situations are they're scared, they're fearful, they don't know. And Pat said, you know what? I'm going to ban the troops. I'm going to circle the wagons. This is what I heard. And so he said, like you said, for 100 days or for as long as this takes over, and maybe even beyond that, because he really likes this. He has said in one of his videos that this is the happiest he's been in doing something ever.
Yeah.
And the word ever did it for me. It's like he wakes up every morning. It gives him something to do. It's almost like having to, shower and get ready and go to the office, so to speak. So he shows up for us at 8 o'clock every day. He goes at least an hour, sometimes an hour and 16, 20 minutes during the week days, and the weekends he goes an hour and a half. He's committed. He's committed to all of this. And for me personally, even if I can't make it that day, I know there's a replay. He keeps a replay. Not every one of the influencers does, because I wanted to watch one of his things 3 or 4 days ago that he did with someone else. Pat was a guest, and I wanted to go back to the replay. There's no replay. They take this stuff down. It's like, you got to be here live or forget it. And I like, I don't know if I like that.
On YouTube?
Yep.
No, on Facebook.
It's
I
on
can name the
Facebook.
person. You know the person. He does this a lot. So I don't know why a person does that, to go live and then take it away when, a majority of us can't watch it live.
Are they in the midst of a launch?
I don't think so.
Always.
Okay, well then that's why they do it.
Always.
Always.
And he's probably using that information as part of the masterclass or part of the curriculum and everything else, blah, blah, blah. So I totally get that. But still, at least have it up for at least a 24-hour period so those of us who can't make it live can see it. Anyway, I don't want to get into that rant. So what I've noticed is when Pat said, he's going to be there for us, inferring that there are other influencers or people in his genre or at his level who are not going to be there for us like he is and show up every day and allow a tribe to break out, a community to break out like they have, and someone to take the reins and go, hey, I'm going to make a Slack group, or I'm going to make a Facebook group, because that's our next thing, is to make a Facebook group. But we don't want to necessarily, and I'm making air quotes, step on E's toes. But
Sure.
I've already got the green light from him from the word go when I realized what he wanted to do. So we just need to get into that. Now, back to the question. So why aren't some of the other influencers doing this? Now, April and I noticed that there are a lot of different people that are doing the daily saying, connecting, so on and so forth.
Not only that,
Yeah, go
there's
ahead.
a lot of people who are realizing how, going back to what Christoph was saying, if you're not the main show, then forget about it.
Yep.
Now there's a lot of influencers who are seeing their peers becoming the main show. And now as we're ending the quarantine, suddenly there's more and more people popping up with their daily Zoom call or their daily whatever, wherever. So it's like they want to get in on the action before it all dies out completely. It's like the pride got in the way in the beginning because they weren't the first ones to think of it. So they're not going to do it at all. And they're going to take all their toys and go home. And then...
Please do that again.
Yeah. They're going to take all their toys and go home.
This is A squared, Animated April, and
Yes.
a lot of people love her animation, as I do.
Yes.
So to answer the question and then have Christoph tell us all what he meant by what he said, which I emphasized, and that is exactly what April is saying, is like the pride got in the way. It's like, yeah, I just want to do a broadcast. But the people who are broadcasting are not the influentials who are broadcasting. Let me say it that way, rather than if you're not broadcasting, what are you doing? You're narrowcasting. So you're like wanting to involve your community. And what Pat has done, his whole entire show, for the most part, okay, let me not say the whole entire show. For the most part, 80%, let's use the 80-20 rule. 80% is user-generated content, his tribe, what they ask, what they're putting out there, and then maybe 20% or even less than that is Pat telling his content for us. Like, I love the style thing. Somebody made him a 20-minute video, showed it to him, and said, "Hey, Pat, I see that you're on the stages. I'd like to tell you about your style. For shorter guys, this works. For darker skinned people, this works." And he just brought that out, and he said he did it, and he got the respect, and he'd never been called sir before, and he was starting to get called sir because of the way he was showing up. And I believe the saying, dress for success. But a lot of us here are in pajamas, we haven't yet showered, and all that good stuff, Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So that type of influencer, Pat Flynn, and then what you're saying, those people who come on the show, do 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it's all about them, the broadcasting, they don't even pay attention to the comments, don't bring any of that up. And people are like, why am I here listening to a talking head when I can be over here with Pat, not only interacting with Pat and asking him questions, but look at all the interaction here in the chat. People are so friendly. They want to say hi to me because I show up every day and I blah, 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 blah. And it's so wonderful to hear your name or even see your name in lights, because that's what YouTube does. They highlight it if you do the @April Roga, then it's like, oh boy, it just shows up in lights, so to speak. So Christoph, please explain, what you meant.
Go ahead. What did Seth Godin say about what people want most?
Yeah, what do people want? Seth Godin said this on his Tribe's TED Talk. He said, what do people want? They want to be missed. They want to be missed. Now, in order for you to be missed, you have to be involved in a tribe or a community and get known to be missed. And I think that's what Pat is allowing us to do, to be known, to be seen, to be heard, even if it's just text. And I think a lot of influencers aren't doing that. So, Christoph, what did you mean by that when you said that? Because that's what I heard.
So you're spot on. It's an attitude per se, right? It's April did it really well. Where the face and the pout and everything, perfect. I couldn't have done it better, even if I added sound effects. That was just.
I have to go back and watch the replay.
That was really well done. I think because of here's what I took away from it, and maybe I'm going to answer my own question in a different direction just because I'm me. I think a lot of people are used to being looked to as they're relevant, meaning building your email list or becoming a speaker or the list could go on and on and on and on of influencers, right? And again, those are two that I referenced. But I'll use one as an example. I'm a huge fan of T. Harv Eker, and he wrote the book Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, and he sold his company many years ago to Success Resources. And here's the fact: Success Resources is an event company. They do events, they do retreats, they do whatever. I have watched them struggle. And again, Gene is the CEO of Success Resources America right now. Wonderful person, but holy crap, they're struggling to be relevant right now because there are no events. They're not able to have an event. They're not able to blast out a thing to their email list saying, you should come to Dallas because we're having an event in Dallas. Nobody cares. And they've tried to bring on, big time influencers and have like a little webinar or whatever, but they're not interactive. There's no communication. There's nothing like what Pat is doing. And honestly, I tuned in and I was like, yeah, never mind. Like, this is like the worst webinar I've ever seen.
So what is it that Pat, forget about the community part. What is it about Pat and the value that he's providing?
So
keeps you coming back, and what makes him different than everybody else in terms of how he's presenting himself?
So he's relatable. He can go back and say, I was fired. I was let go. I know how you feel. I understand where you're at right now with not knowing what's going to be happening in the future. Now, times are different. We're not talking about quarantine. We were talking about him getting let go. But the feeling of the viewer is exactly the same. There is this uncertainty of what is going on right now in the world? What is happening? What is happening to my job? What is happening? Or I had a job and now I don't have a job, or I do, but I don't know if I'll actually get it when it comes. I mean, Las Vegas is an interesting area because casinos, try social distancing a casino. They make
I see pictures of Las Vegas and I never.
It is. If you've ever seen the movie with Will Smith, I Am Legend, that is what downtown Las Vegas looks like. It's vacant.
Ghost town.
It's zombie apocalypse scary. I mean, it is Resident Evil. Like, where are the zombies? I mean, it's really freaky. That business is going to have to change in such a way that in order to come back, if social distancing is what it is, you're going to have 3 people at a blackjack table. They're not going to have a $5 table in Vegas anymore with 3
That's
people
going to be 3 happier people than there are right now, though.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. But what about the majority of why people come to Vegas? Conferences.
Okay, we're getting way off track now.
I know we're getting off track. The point of why I'm getting off track is this. All of those people, those industries are having a problem staying relevant. So are these big name influencers. They're going through the exact same type of wow, like everybody used to tune in and listen to me. And now nobody is. Because they've had more time to consume the content. They're sitting at home and they're looking and they're like, you know what? No, I'm going to unsubscribe from you. Whereas before they were so busy, it would just pop up in their email anyway that, maybe they would look at it, maybe they wouldn't. I think the connection that Pat has made in communicating him being real is what is drawing people to him. If I were to answer it that way.
Yeah, I totally agree with what that last statement infers in most people's minds. You said connection and communicating.
Yeah.
Now, one of my favorite people of all time that I love to follow, Pat is certainly my top 5, and so is John Maxwell. And John Maxwell wrote the book, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect.
Sure.
And you hit it. You hit it this time where we have so much time to be online, to be in someone's space, like an influencer, an A-list influencer, for an hour. Very, very few people can, I'm looking for the right word, can communicate and connect, we'll just use your words, there's nothing better, like Pat, with his tribe.
I can,
I just need a tribe.
I know, you can.
Okay,
and I'm pretty sure
perfect.
Christoph can, because I'm totally following him, totally getting his communication, totally getting his connection. If he were to do what Pat did for an hour every day, I would be there.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm being prodded in many, many different ways in this household. Let's put it that way, to do exactly that. I don't know why I don't, but I should. Let's put it that way. Here's what Pat does. He invites us in.
Yes.
We feel like we are stuck at home with our friend.
We are.
Whereas other big name influencers, and I'm going to use one, I'm just going to name drop because let's do it. Okay. So Grant Cardone, hello, Grant, where are you? I'm a subscriber. I have seen very little.
Okay, let's talk about that, because April and I can totally relate to Grant.
Okay.
So Grant first came on my radar when I was on blab.im because he was there often. A lot of top influencers, even Tony Robbins made it out there because one of the members called him over and said, hey, you got to look at this stuff. So blab.im, now defunct, but it's like this community here. It's a live stream. It was, not mainstream yet, but just a few of us found it. And that's where Grant showed up. So everybody was saying, Grant Cardone, Grant Cardone, Grant Cardone. And I'm like, Grant Cardone, who is he?
Yeah.
Right? Because he had not yet crossed my path. And so I started looking at his stuff, and I'm sure his content is great. But the content is not king. People say in social media all the time, content is king, content is king, content is king. Unless they say content is king of something like SEO, I'm going to disagree with them. I'm going to say that the content provider is great. Now, if someone else other than Grant were providing that content, that information, I may gravitate towards it. But I don't gravitate towards Grant. It's just something about him. He could be a super great guy, and I'm sure he is, and he's helped a lot of people. He's just not a fit for me, and if you're not a fit, I will not commit. So, April, you have thoughts on Grant? Because Christoph obviously follows him, and he's saying that, hey, he's such a great influencer, but during this time, during this time, I'm not hearing the, connection part. I'm hearing he communicates well because that's why
he's flat out absent right now, right?
Well, is that what you're saying?
So here's what I mean by he's flat out absent. He's selling the same crap that he sold a year ago. His videos are the same. What Pat has done is Pat went from Pat producing content like Pat does in a regular, weekly distribution type format to, you know what? I'm going to be here live and I'm going to engage with anyone that wants to come on. He completely changed how he was engaging or how he was communicating or how he was attempting to connect. To me, Grant is doing the exact same stuff he's been doing for the last year. It's nothing to me has changed. So therefore, he's gone silent. His voice is the same. Hey, I want you to connect with me. I want you to, instead of tell me, you know what? Well, you just got to get up off your, oh, okay. Well, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? Like kind of come down to my level a little bit, get out of your, multi-million-dollar condo and stop driving your Bentley in the garage and be real with me right now. Pat, to me, has done that. And I guess that's the disconnect to me where, big time influencers like Grant Cardone just lost me. Total disconnect. Didn't, okay, you're going that way. That's fine. And I'm sure there's hundreds of thousands of people that want to go that way. It lost me. It literally was like, okay, he is so disconnected from where I am at right now. Bye. Unsubscribe. I'm done.
So two things real quick, and April, take off what I'm saying. Number one, what Christoph felt, heard, and connected with Grant prior to this pivot that the world is feeling now. He's in a different situation. Grant did not pivot with Christoph. So therefore, unsubscribe. Tell us how long you were subscribed to him so we have some context.
I've probably been subscribed. So I'm a big fan of real estate. I have real estate myself. I'm a big fan of, anybody that kind of talks and helps with real estate. I owned an IRA company many years ago.
Sure.
So it's probably been, Grant has been on my radar. Pat original, but then I lost, for whatever reason, lost. And then Grant picked up, and Grant was a big name because Grant was.
Yes, he is.
Grant has bravado that worked, past tense, is exciting and like, wow, let's charge and let's go do this. We've had a total reset. And I feel as if Pat is connecting with that reset. So, Grant probably, 4 years.
Okay.
And it just recently got to the point where it was like, this is the same stuff.
Yeah, I've heard it all. I don't need to hear it
I'm
anymore.
done. Don't just go into your email list and and regurgitate an old email, and try to apply it. It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel genuine. I guess that's the best word.
I think that's a good word. Yeah,
is it doesn't feel genuine. It feels like it's the same old. Whereas, yeah, it feels scripted. It feels like he ran it through some form of software to make sure it was the best version of it without actually reading it.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
What I'm hearing here is that you're saying not only for Grant. So for those of you who are listening in, maybe in the future, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 years from now or beyond, here's what I hear, Christoph. He's not ragging on or being disrespectful to Grant. What he's doing is he's just reporting the news. If he was a daily reporter, journalist, what have you, this is the 11 o'clock news, he would be reporting, here's what Pat Flynn is doing, here's what Grant Cardone is doing, and you guys decide. He's just reporting the news. He's not making any kind of judgment calls at all because Pat gets to be Pat, Grant gets to be Grant. Christoph, am I saying the right thing here? You're just reporting the news.
Yes, but I'm going to go a step further.
Of course. I love it.
We all vote with our time.
Yes,
so
time is the most valuable thing.
Choosing not to invest my time, I have
good
voted.
Word.
I have voted for now. Now, Grant,
for now, that's good. For
now, Grant could come back on my radar later, but for right now, he is not relevant at all to me. Right. I can't tell you what is good for you. I can tell you what is good for me.
Absolutely.
And you can look at it and say, you know what? Like, that guy's an idiot. He makes a little bit of sense, or wow, he makes a lot of sense, or I like this about him. I like this about you. I mean, you make up your own damn mind. Figure out what it is that you want. For me, because you asked the question to me, and I'm extremely opinionated. Ask my wife. Even if I'm wrong, I'm going down in fire.
You are. You're going down in flames. You planted your flag, and I love that about you.
I will plant my flag, and until she can prove it to me, which happens way more than I would like to admit, then I tuck my tail, retreat to my doghouse for a few minutes, and then come out and apologize, and we move on.
I love that. Me too.
Well, no, my next question, since you wanted me to lead so badly.
Yes. And you know what? You see what you just did? You interrupted me, which is great because you're leading this.
That's right.
Yes. Well, before you do the interruption, which I say there is no interruptions, not on our show, I'm going to drop down, but I'm going to quote one more thing that Christoph said in his, I'm not going to even call it a rant. It's not a rant. He's just reporting the news. I love that. And then April, you're going to take over. So what Christoph did by saying what he did with Grant, it's the Maya Angelou quote, always. I'm going to bring this up until you memorize it. It's part of your frontal lobe, Christoph, because Maya Angelou says, Christoph, Roy's going to forget what you said. Christoph, Roy's going to forget what you did. But Christoph, Roy's never going to forget how you made him feel. And all the other people that were listening to the sound of your voice. And I felt exactly what you felt after your reporting the news about Grant versus Pat. And I love that. I love that. So I'm off. April, over to you.
Okay.
So what I was going to say was, when I stormed in while you were talking.
You bet. You took charge.
I did. And so I want to know, when are we going to get to meet your wife?
Wow. So that is a great question. Let me explain it this way. So when I had the opportunity, the joy, the privilege of training for Success Resources, Peak Potentials, whatever they're now called, I trained over 300, maybe 350 events. That's not 300 days. That's not 300 keynotes. It's 350 events. And most events were 3 days. Some events were 5 days. I even did a 7-day. She came, I'm going to say a number and then she's going to argue with it. So I'm going to shoot higher than she would say. She came to 25 events. She is not a she's she is the best support I could have ever asked, because I like to be out front and she likes to be behind me, tucked inside so no one can see, but she's pushing me.
Mhm.
Without her, I would be nothing. But getting her on this, I would love it, but it would put such a spotlight on her that it would be detrimental to our relationship.
Gotcha.
So I would love it. And at some future point, there might be that opportunity, but not right now for sure.
Okay.
She is not.
Fair enough.
She is like the sun. She's always there. You just have to know where to look. It's that bright.
Look
Exactly. Exactly. So can I commando for 1 second? Okay.
Sure.
I sent a link.
saw that.
I came across, so this guy's name is Sam Crowley, and I'm just gonna say this because I had a wonderful opportunity with Ernest to kind of do like a one-on-one with Ernest, and during the one-on-one, which I have also had the opportunity because of the Slack group and some of the other things that I've been involved with, I've had literally, the crazy world is I've done paid coaching where people pay me to get coached by me for a very long time. But I would say in the last 3 weeks, I have done more free coaching than I ever have in my entire career. And it's been just fine.
That's what you're doing here right now. You're coaching me.
Well, I know where people are at. And I know that scroll up so you can read kind of the whatever it's called, the text that he wrote right there. So
can you plus? I can't read that. Thank you.
There you go. So because of I know where people are at, I'm not going to, at this moment, I'm not asking them to contribute anything to anything I can do to help them. But the one thing that I have heard multiple times is, oh, I want to do this. I want to do this. But they have, they can't do this. They can't. Yes. No, like look at this. So, he's had a podcast with 18 million downloads that he does from his car on his phone in the grocery store parking lot. Yeah. And look at this. He goes down and he's like, look, you don't need to be, you don't need to be, what does he say? You just need a message that you're passionate about sharing, right? Now he's got his little free course and that's great. And that's what this is. But the whole point of the reason why I brought this up was scroll back up to the top right there and a little bit down. So a podcast with right there. So all you need is a podcast with 18 million downloads. And it's consistently at the top, right, of motivational and inspirational podcasts on iTunes. He doesn't have anything expensive. He didn't go out and buy a whole bunch of this stuff. Go back and listen to his very early stuff. It was rough, but he just kept doing it. He just kept doing it. And so I guess my feedback to anybody who is hesitating, especially right now, you have absolutely no excuse. Here is a guy in the best of times on his phone in his Kia in a grocery store parking lot, and he's got a very successful podcast. His podcast is different. It's not necessarily for everybody, but guess what? It's great because he's still doing it and it's out there. So for anybody who might listen to this, who is hesitating and saying, you know what? I am trying to figure out like why I'm not, doing my podcast or why I'm not whatever. And you have all these reasons. Do it on your phone, get your phone out and look on your Kia or, maybe you're in your, there you go. Maybe you're in your apartment in New York City and you can't leave and you have a phone. I mean, Pat has given us how many resources to be able to do exactly this. Where there, I forget that, on his website, there's the tools and the resources. There's a whole section of like, hey, if you have, $2,000, well, then you can buy a Rodecaster mic. If you don't, use your phone. And yet most people don't. So if anything, now is one of those times where your voice needs to be heard, because I guess that the biggest statement here would be this: if you're not relevant now, guess what? Most people aren't either. They don't have a job either. So why don't you stand up and have something to say? I mean, I use Corey as an example. I think Corey has a wonderful message that he needs to share, and he will in his own time when he's ready for whatever reason. Great, awesome, do it whenever you're ready. Ernest, whenever you're ready, share your message. I could go down the list of all the people that I've talked to. Those are two relevant ones because they're part of the Slack group. You have a message. You have something. April, you have a message.
I have a lot of messages. That's
you
just
do.
So many. I don't know which one to grab at first.
Put them all out there and see which one. Put them all out there and see which ones which ones those of us that listen to you gravitate more towards.
But it's not about me. None of this is about me.
But it is.
Because
if you don't say it, who will?
Right. If exactly what I was going to say. So I'll jump in.
Oh, look, I need water. I'll be right back. No, for real, I need water.
So her and I have gone around with this because she's still finding her legs, so to speak, after 4 years.
Nothing wrong with that.
But here's the thing. I put her into an environment about topic A or topic Z or any topic that I know she knows about in the middle of all of that. And she just crushes it, to use Gary Vee vernacular. She just crushes it. She's not like, I don't have anything to comment on. She's not necessarily one who just jumps on a virtual stage like this and says, okay, what do y'all want to talk about? And then she gets an idea from the audience. She goes, I don't know anything about that. Next. That kind of thing. She's not that person to do that, but she's the kind of person to be there as the wing person, so to speak, as the side person, as your partner, as your co-host. And so I have been able to jump in because I'm that guy. It's like you put me in any environment and I usually have something to say about it, unless, of course, it's something completely out of my wheelhouse that doesn't matter. But if it has something to do with relationships and something that matters, not like, this latest game. It's like I'm not a gamer. I don't know the latest game. Pat's a gamer. He can talk to you about that all day long. He can relate. I can't. Here's my point. I wanted to jump in and say this when you said the two gentlemen that we know, E and Corey. And yes, they should get out there and get their message out there because I've heard both of their messages behind the scenes. They're very well spoken. They can do this. For whatever reason, they're not yet getting their story out there the way that I think they should. But here's what I know. Two are better than one. If somebody will co-host with them or if somebody will interview them and get their motor started, get it jump started to where they're like, oh, this is not that bad. I can do this. This is okay, blah, blah, blah. So whatever the hesitation is, whatever the blockage is for them doing just what we're doing here, coming in and doing an impromptu type show and talking about what they love and here's what my dream is and who's with me. And like Pat said, when April asked, tell me something about a pilot program. Where do I get the peeps instead of cherry picking them one at a time? I want to go into a group and find a whole lot of people all at one time. And the way that Pat unpacked that yesterday, for me, it was just amazing. He invested like 8 minutes to do that, and he doesn't usually do that on any question. So that shows me that he sees April as being relevant. And the fact that she has the same name as his wife, that probably doesn't hurt either. But my point again is do it 2 or more people like this. Find that environment. Find your person that will do this with you. Somebody that is at the same place as you in the journey, maybe 2 or 3 steps, maybe 2 or 3 miles ahead in the journey, or just like what we did. We became fast friends, I hope, or I think, or at least fast acquaintances beyond just the acquaintance part. And we can do this. We can step into this environment, talk about Pat first and foremost, and then branch off to all of our zigs and zags, because that's who we are. And together, I believe, Christoph, you and I would be a better show for most people than if I were just to talk, the talking head, and you were just to talk, the talking face, individually. Not that that is a bad thing for us, because I think we can pull that off. But together we are better. And I think Simon Sinek is right when he says that. And that's what I wanted to put out there, is that E and Corey need to find that other person or persons to do this with consistently on a consistent basis, because momentum is it's everything. So we started this a week ago. We've been showing up every night, even if
You have
April and I
been.
go like, I don't know what we're going to talk about, but let's talk about something for 5 minutes on Pat's show. We can find something. Let's just go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, go somewhere in the hour, listen to them, and then talk about it, because April and I can do that. You can do that. And I love the fact that people are willing to do that. I call it jumping off a cliff and building your parachute on the way down. So I just wanted to say, two are better than one. So those two gents, to get started, get somebody else involved in their thing. Do a round robin, do a round table talk like what we're doing here, and that way you don't have to carry the whole entire show. But they're good enough to do it. They just need to get the engine going and revved up and keep doing it every single day, because momentum is everything. So
It is.
can you relate to that?
I can, because I stopped. So I got bad news last week with my father, and being bipolar, it emotionally like punched me in the face. I am still processing the information that I gathered from my father and his new illness and kind of what's going on with the virus and whatnot. And I don't process things super well as it is, that are this emotional. I tend to be really emotional. And so I stopped. I didn't put a video out on Friday, like I said I was going to, and I didn't put a video out today. So I completely understand with the consistency aspect of it, because frankly, now that I'm out of the habit, Wednesday is going to be harder than ever. Versus you guys are probably getting into a little bit of a flow because you have started, it's been a week, and at some point you're going to go, what are we doing? Why are we still doing this? What's going on? But you've continued to do it. So if anything, I called myself out on this.
Ooh. It wasn't a total loss coming here tonight, then.
No, it was not. It was not. This was you guys have such a great way of, kind of communicating and making it feel friendly, that obviously, I mean, how do we get here? Here's the question. And I will, Roy, you're a much better writer than I am. How do we get, so lead me through what to do. So I'm in the Slack group, and there is promote your content and brand here, and you guys have posted in there. There's got to be some way where we say, hey, I mean, let's say that I go live with you guys one time a week, right? Well, we need 6 other people, right? In order to kind of, and you can just use the people in the Slack group, and maybe you can pitch it as, hey, this is a great opportunity to test out some material that you've been wanting to test out, or something, right? Like, how do we get E to come and do this? Because he'd be great. He would be great, right?
I just need to jump on a Skype call with him. I mean, we Skyped with him that day for like 3-4 hours. It was insane.
Awesome. Yeah.
But
so, and again, because I think you two can guide and lead and direct and, kind of, move this anywhere you want to go, and give other people the opportunity to have, like you've given me, so I guess my question is, how do I help you help more people do what you're doing, so that this gets bigger, not only for you, but that it then helps other people, right? And we all kind of grow together.
Well, that's kind of a great segue. Okay, well, it's not kind of, because that's minimizing it. This is a great segue to the exchange that I had in the Slack group today. Now, we called this the After Show, Afterglow.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about Pat's show. But it's not just Pat's show. It's all the elements of what came from Pat doing this daily Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
And a big part of that is the Slack group and all the conversations that are taking place in there that, quite honestly, get lost in all the threads and all the channels. It's
a lot.
it's a lot to, and then you got to bookmark things and then go to your saved folder. And then you're like, wait, where did I see that thing? And it escapes you so quickly. But today and yesterday, I had 2 conversations with 2 different people that were 40 plus deep comments back and forth.
Yeah.
And then a 5-hour conversation with Jonathan, aka the travel tourist, off of Slack and in Facebook for 5 hours yesterday.
Wow.
And then he came to the show last night and he was working, so he was just commenting, and we asked him if he wanted to come on the show, and he said he'll have to give it some thought, and if he sees, you know, why he should do that for him, then, you know, he'd consider it.
Why not?
Some people they're just terrified of this environment, and that's my superpower, is helping people to get rid of all the layers of stuff, because I've been there.
Yeah.
Still there at times, of forget about what people are going to judge you on. They're going to judge you anyway. Stop thinking you're less than because your mama told you so and your daddy told you so, and so on and so on. So today I had a conversation with somebody in the Sistas channel that I created that's private.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people don't see that, obviously, because they're not a Sista.
Sure. I'm not.
You're not.
Nope. And never will be. Sorry.
Never will be. But her name is Melanie, and she's been giving me sincere compliments since day one. And I've barely, like, in my eyes, I'm thinking, well, I didn't really say anything profound, that she's giving me all of these accolades and telling me what a great coach I am. And, oh, April, I never thought of that. And you're so wonderful. And I'm like, who are you talking to? This is like, it's just me. I'm just helping you. And so they don't realize that when they say these things to me, how that's helping me. And today I asked her, because we had this long exchange, and she told me that I really clarified this for her, and I helped like unveil something in her mind. And I said, do you mind if I share that on tonight's live stream? And I said, I think it would bless other people. I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be tonight, because we'll probably have one viewer, and his name is probably Roy Montero, because that's probably the one viewer that we see on the thing. But
that's okay. We don't need viewers right now.
But you never know. And I used to get stuck on this. I would think, well, why bother? There's like 1 viewer, there's 5 viewers, whatever. There's 190 people who viewed it on the replay. But someday, which could be tomorrow, could be a year from now, a door could open, and this could be the soundbite of soundbites that, like, gets not just myself and Roy noticed by somebody or an opportunity given to us, but for those people also, because they were part of the story.
Sure.
And I want to eventually share this stuff with Pat. And that's why I asked him about the pilot program yesterday.
Yeah.
I asked, how do you get a pilot program started? And sharing with him, I'm sure it would have to bless him. And he's so humble. And the same thing with E. He's so humble. Every time I say, you know, you created the Slack group, and he's like, no, it wasn't me. But it was you.
It was him.
It was him.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for Pat and it wasn't for E, then these connections would not be made the way that they are right now. And if I don't share the story of what I've experienced with this other human being, then nobody's going to witness it, and it's just going to get lost.
And that would be sad.
It would be sad.
Yeah.
So I don't even know why. I said that was a great segue into this, but now I don't even remember why it was a great segue. And
I think what it does is it ties off the day, right? Like, you've had great conversations today that have given you all of the experience and the thoughts and the feelings that you've had today, from Pat all the way to, I forget what her name was, Malaya? Melanie. And then all of a sudden, right, you kind of see all of the people that you can help that, sure, starting from scratch sucks because there's nothing there. And then eventually you have 1, and then you have 2, and then you have 5, then you have 10. And it doesn't matter what it is, right? As Roy talks about people currency, well, all of us at some point were broke. Well, we didn't have anybody believe in what we were doing, right? And eventually you get to the point where you have millions of people currency, hundreds of millions or whatever it is, like Pat, and he gave you 8 minutes? I mean, that was amazing, right? Use that as leverage to get you to where you want to go. That's what your show is about, is continuing the consistency of being able to help other people like you have done today.
I know what is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Where I get stuck is being able to convey it to other people. And I don't think it's because they're the wrong people. I just think it's that the message is so huge.
So a good statement that I have heard many, many times is you've got to dumb it down so that a 5-year-old can understand it.
True that.
Because if you speak it kind of like a 5th grade level, right? Where a lot of us, when we get really excited about something, we get into what I would call the weeds. We get so over into the weeds about something that it then doesn't make sense to who you're describing it to. Right? I can totally. I can.
I'm guilty. I'm guilty of that.
Totally
yes.
See it. Yes.
I am. Go ahead, Christoph.
Well, no. That's the great part about you too, is right. So when he goes into the weeds, you just need to be able to be, hey, I hope you found your golf ball or whatever over there, but we can't see you. We're over here. Come back and play with us over here. And so I wouldn't worry too much about it. Roy taught me something the very first time that we, kind of engaged on the program, where I don't remember who it was. But their mic sucked and the audio was terrible and maybe the internet was bad or whatever. There were all of these problems. And he's like, hey, just disconnect and try to get back on. Like, that you weren't doing it to be offensive. You weren't like, hey, you should probably pay a little bit more to get better internet. You were like, your internet right now sucks. You didn't point them out and be like, upgrade all your stuff. You were like, hey, it's not working. So why don't you leave the studio and come back on? Try again. And it worked. And it worked.
I don't just refresh.
I don't feel like you did it in a negative way. So for April, do it that way. Just continue to refresh. If you
I tell her all the time,
you're having a hard time kind of explaining it in the way that you want to, or I would actually use in the emotion that you're trying to convey. Because I think words and emotions tend to kind of rule the feeling that you receive it in. So
yes.
you could give me the information that I needed right now, right today. But if I am not in a open receivership position,
yes,
emotionally,
yes,
I'm going to think I'm going to think whatever.
Right.
Like it's not going to matter.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
And so therefore you're giving out and it's literally going to deflect. It's going to bounce. It's going to be like a bouncy ball. And a lot of times those of us, and I think you're this way, who speak with emotion, when that bouncy ball bounces, we feel as if we didn't do a good enough job communicating it, when in reality it was the idiot on the other end who was closed off.
Nailed it. If I had a bell to ring, yes, I would ring it right now for April, because April is she's still attached to what she puts out and how it's received. April, would that be true? I don't want to presume or assume this about you, but I think Christoph and I, and I'll have to ask Christoph if it's true, when we give out information, we really don't care how it's received. We do care, but we don't care if you don't receive it the way that we delivered it. If you think that we're being a little blank, pushy in a negative,
depends on the context.
Correct.
Depends on the context.
Always depends on that. But but we give out information to an individual or to a collective with the motive of, I have new information that will help you where I see you're stuck or you're a little bit blank about it. That's why you've got the wrong belief system. You're limited in your belief. If you would only pivot just a little bit in your belief, now your behavior would be changing.
Do you know, Roy, how much different, I'm not going to say better, easier, I want to, how much different this journey of mine would be if I was doing this by myself? Because then I would be the boss.
I would.
But I have
You
to
wouldn't what? I'm sorry. Say it again for those.
I would be the boss of me.
Yes, you would be the boss of you. You would use your own brain, like I always say, and you wouldn't have that perspective of me and or now Christoph, because that's my thing. I just want to bring people on the show and have them have their segment and say and everything else. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But I have to think and do in light of you. I'm not saying you're the boss of me, because we know who wears the pants in this family.
We sure do.
But
you bet.
But we have to be in sync with each other. And I don't know why this came to mind. I do, because all day Roy was cutting up vegetables. And so all I could think of was, it's like he always he always wants to cut the vegetable before the knife is even out of the drawer. I mean, just the old saying, putting the cart before the horse. He sees something about somebody the one quality that he thinks would be a fit for what we're doing, and he's all over it. And he's, let's call that person and invite him on the show. And I'm like, you're gonna scare them away. And he's like, well, then they're not our target audience. I'm like, oh, it's so frustrating. Just let me be me and handle people in the manner that I know I can get out of them what needs to be drawn out of them without you like swooping. See, there he is.
In my defense, and Christoph will address this, there's a tiny, rare amount of people that will connect, right? Because my communication is such that it's very blunt, but there's a small, rare breed of people like Christoph who don't need the pampering that you believe they do need for 2 and 3 and 4 connections. Like some people say, you need 8 connections before they connect with you and your product and service. And I'm like, if they don't connect on day 1, session 1, then I'm out. It's like, I don't want that person. If I have to do all this stuff to get them up to 8th grade or 12th grade or wherever I am, then that's too much work for me. But that's okay, because you like doing the work. So in my defense, Christoph is here, Deb is here, Corey is here, and they just jumped in, and they're jumping off a cliff building a parachute, and they didn't need the pampering. So Christoph, is that right? You heard my invitation. Get on the show, let's do it, and let's find out what we're doing together later. You don't need to know everything, yes or no?
This is turning into a like a marital session here or something. I don't want to get in the middle of. I do not want to be in the middle of this.
This makes for good TV 2.0 reality.
Oh man, this is good stuff. Here, because any couple or any partnership of whatever fashion, right, goes through these exact same emotions that you do. One always wants to push harder in one way than the other. That doesn't necessarily make it right. That doesn't necessarily make it wrong. My question is yes, you have Corey. Yes, you have me. Yes, you have Deb. I'm going to play devil's advocate. How many would you have if April did it her way and you backed off for a bit? I don't know.
Okay, so let me answer that real quick.
Hold on. No, you don't get a chance. I'll ask.
Ooh.
I'm ready.
I would say,
how many people, who started the sisters group, the sisters?
She did, with her own brain. She didn't even confer with me.
I know.
The little wife that she is. It's like, what? You're doing a sisters group?
How many are in it?
Is it bad if I don't know the answer to that?
Yeah, that is bad. Like 22?
24.
Oh, good guess. I said 22 before you even said that. I'm going to back off until I'm ready to go on this. We would still have the same amount, and she would have the same amount brewing. Is what I would say.
All right. All I'm saying is obviously she's got 24 people who have connected her way for whatever reason with her. So I think what you need to do is you look at your business as a composite. There are going to be people who connect with April in April's way that need multiple touches, right? There are going to be people who connect in your way who need one touch and are immediately kind of like, you know what? I really, really like this. But to be fair, there are also people, especially the people that are all in or all out. They're all in real fast and they're all out real fast.
Those are Roy's people.
Versus the other side, the people that maybe kind of get nurtured, I guess, along their, kind of customer indoctrination, right? I mean, if we're talking about people currency, right? Like you give them a penny and they're like, oh, sweet, I got a penny. Well, how do I get a nickel? Well, you need 5 more. Okay. Well, how do I get 5 more? You show up every day and I'll give you one every day. Okay, great. So they show up every day. And then they get 5 and then they're like, I have a nickel, right? I'm not looking for a nickel. I want $2,000, right? Like there's a difference between the composite of people. Really early, if I realize I'm never going to, you know what? It's going to take too long to get $2,000. I'm out. Versus building kind of, and here's, boy. So I am on this guy. His name is Stu. I'm a very new subscriber to this guy. Stu
McLaren?
That's who it is. Because in a perfect world, I would like to have a membership site for, I'm not 100% sure what. That's the problem. And the interesting thing is the more that I learn from him, which makes normal, logical, rational sense, is don't give people too much, right? Like, don't try to give it all to them. Like, give them a little bit in a week so they can digest it. So
give them a little bit in a week so they can digest it. So I just have to come up and say, did I put Stu on your radar, April, and how long ago? Just to give some context.
A long time ago.
He's connected. So I'm all about the 6 degrees of separation. He's connected with Michael Hyatt, who is the former CEO of the #1 book publishing company for Christian authors in the United States. And I just wanted to make that reference. He was also his partner. He started Michael off and said, hey, Michael, why don't you do a membership type site, because he's all about that. And I'm all about that because we have the big boys and girls doing this. Amazon has membership, right? They're Prime. Most people have all these memberships like Netflix and stuff like that. These are monthly memberships. And so you should have a monthly membership because that's guaranteed money. And even car washes, if I can say this really quick, are getting into it, right? If you're a frequent, car washer, then it makes sense to go and get a membership with them or a recurring revenue stream for them. And for you, it's always a positive. So, Christoph, I would love to talk to you, off camera and stuff like that about this because that's what we're doing as well. And we're attaching revenue streams to it so other people can be like affiliates for us or joint ventures for us. And that's what we want to do with Pat and people like him in the, A-list tribes that are out there of influencers. So I just wanted to say all that. I'm very familiar with Stu's work. I love the people that he's influenced, and you should, see some of this amazing clips that he have. They're basically testimonials, but they're so well done. They're like so professional. They're like Hollywood, 2, 3, 4 minute clips, and you learn so much about what this person was doing before they met Stu, and then now their membership after Stu and the people that they're serving. So amazing. I just had to put in my punch and my plug for Stu McLaren because we love him. And April already said Stu. I don't know any Stus but Stu McLaren. So he's top of mind. Yeah, he does the, it's not I'm going to do the Jerry Garcia quote, and then I'm going to jump off and let you continue your spiel about meeting Stu and crossing his path, because Jerry Garcia's quote, his one-liner, is apropos here. Stu, it's not enough for you to be the best at what you do. Stu, you must be perceived as the only one who does what you do. And so you are definitely that in April's mind and my mind, and on his way to being that for you, Christoph. So please continue.
Well, so you actually just said it, and I think it was wonderful. April, I'm not sure if you were listening, but Roy just talked an awful lot about those videos that were done, those testimonial videos that were done, and the attention to detail and how much time was put in to get those testimonials right. I think you and kind of your nurture method is exactly like those testimonials. You want to go in and you want to make sure that you connect with the right emotion with people so that they feel where you're coming from, so that they get, like, all you have to do is watch one of those testimonials. It doesn't even matter if it's relevant to you or not. They are so polished, so well crafted that I think he has, I don't know, 20, 30, however many, or you watch one and you're like, oh my gosh, I get it. Like, yeah, I don't want a banjo membership site, but if it worked for this guy with a banjo or whatever, I don't know if there was a banjo one or not. I'm making it up, but you connect with it. You're like, oh my gosh, like, I don't have a banjo, but I have this. And in our minds, we kind of immediately like, well, that's better than a banjo. So it would be easier for us to do it. So I think, as we're going back to the synergy between the two of you, I think April is going to attract a particular type of people currency and a different type of people currency than Roy is. And I don't think that that's a negative. I don't think that's a positive. I think it is a positive, because you can collect people currency together. The two of you can, versus if you only had April's version, you're only going to gather it your way. And if you only have Roy's version, you're only going to gather it his way. So I would look at it in what synergistic way can you two maximize the people currency that you can get together, right? Obviously, April, you've got 24 women that you have connected with, sisters, that just, right? You've got something there.
Well, not a lot of them. Some of them have connected with each other. Some of them are just there because they're female, and I added every female to the channel at the time.
Sure.
And so they don't even probably realize they're there. And then there's the few of us, like, I could probably off the top of my head say that there's like 7 people that are constantly engaging. Yeah.
Okay.
So a third of them are pretty active.
So you are developing and creating your own little tribe right there.
I am, but I need to take it off of Slack and into this environment, but they're not ready for that.
Got it. None of them have anything that they would be willing or wanting to promote?
Well, that's just it. They're all kind of floundering in what they even want to be doing right now. And that's why so many people are in the Slack group. It's like they're listening to all of these the influencer voices of social media marketing, and they're thinking that they need a funnel and an ad, and they're doing all this stuff. And I'm over here going, befriend each other. Just go and do a live stream and talk to each other, have a conversation, shout each other out, get to know each other, do it organically. But they want to do, you don't understand, I have a limited time and I work 2 jobs, and
sure.
And then my wife has a job on the side, and we don't even barely see each other. And so everybody seems to be wanting to fit in like a whole lot of stuff into this much time and make it happen. And so that's why all those voices out there that are touting the quick blueprints are winning.
Sure. But how many people have bought the quick blueprint? I mean, how many of them do you have it on your shelf, right? Like, I mean,
or the online course, or
the online course, or the whatever, right? Like part of me, that was why I stopped speaking, was I couldn't stand behind some of the products that were being offered, because it was, I have done real estate for the last 24 years. How old am I? 24 years. And I understand what it takes to build a business in that realm. That is not something you could do with a weekend course. Like you can learn everything about it, but you can't actually have a business with a weekend course. So would you be better off spending $1,000, $997, right? Make sure it's the $997.
Yes, got to end in 7.
7, because that logically our brains translate it to less than 100 or less than 1,000. Or would it be better for me to spend, the $1,000 in running my own Facebook ads? I mean, they're what would you learn more, right? I mean, it's so hard. I think what it comes down to is this: everybody learns differently. So there are going to be people that learn Roy's way. There are people that learn April's way.
Correct.
So as you keep connecting and as you keep, I don't know, maybe have, I noticed, I think it was started the accountability
Yes.
thing
Can we
today
talk about that real quick?
or yesterday. Yep.
Can you hold on one sec? Let me just put this one point because of what you're talking about.
In the way.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So the accountability group that was created. So what I'm hearing Christoph say is this: self-help is good, but other people help is great. Because here in the net friendly movement, we only have good or great. So if you're doing something that's good, there is great. And I'm going to, Jim Collins wrote the book on
Good
From
to Great.
Good to Great. So I use this as my one-liner. Most people, like you said, they want to do this weekend thing, whether it's a retreat, whether it's a home study course. And we know that the rate of actually completing a home study course is like 3%. And they don't get any help necessarily when they run across something that's like, oh, wait a second, what does this mean? And the person who put it together with a personality of an introvert or an extrovert, or they have this bent and that bent, and they're good on stage, but they're not good virtually, or this or that. And the other person who bought that program has no clue of what this other person, their persona, their personality is. And so they're attempting to follow it to the T, step by step, and they get lost because that's not them. One size does not fit all. It's good for socks, but not good for online courses, home courses, retreats, and everything else. And unless that person knows this, they're going to go into it thinking, oh my goodness, and they're going to invest $997 4 or 5 times and go like, none of this stuff works. Well, it's because you haven't yet found your tribe of people who say, we want to do this with you. We know that self-help is okay. And Simon Sinek says this, Keith Ferrazzi says this. When we go to the bookstore, we got all this self-help section. But where is the other people help section? And that's where we are. We want to help you to understand how you show up in the world for me, how you show up in the world for April and everybody else that's in the group. And then you can decide who your tribe is, because if you put out one size fits all out there for your course or whatever you're doing, you're going to run into the same thing. And I think once our message gets out there to people like yourself, Christoph, where you can go, you know what? I agree with you guys. Because that's what you did with our friend Deb. You have, and that's another thing I was going to say, but April, I don't want to get too far away from your accountability group before we end here. So one thing that I know works well is when I give carte blanche almost to anyone without really saying so. And Christoph is he knows kind of sort of what your vibe, my vibe is. And whether he's taking his liberties and going like, oh, I don't know if this is like what they want or not, but I'm just going to, test my boundaries. What can I say? What can I do before they kick me off the show and say, you're banned, you're blocked, you're never coming back on the show again because you're just... I say, if you're providing value, you be you. I will jump off. April will jump off and you run the show, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for individuals. What, pardon?
That would be a broadcast. That's no fun.
Yeah,
Right, but what I'm saying is let them let them spread their wings, and then let's come beside them and do the other people help and go like, wow, great point, Christoph. Let me take off on that. And how many times have we already done that? He brings up a topic, he brings up his opinion, and you and I take off from it.
I know.
We agree or disagree.
I still don't know what ultimately led him to finally get into the Slack group, because y'all zigzagged like.
Yeah, we never did get back to that. But let's get back to that after your accountability thing, because we're rolling up on bedtime and all of that good stuff. So let's let April tell her thing here.
Please
so
do.
This morning in the Sisters group, I posted, like I do every morning, something to get a conversation going, to get people thinking. And so.
Now let's keep in mind that this is not visible to the other people, which may end up being in the hundreds, and you've only got 24 people here that see this every morning. So unless you also put it publicly, this is private, and only you and the sisters see it. So let's make that. So Christoph and I can't see this. We don't know. So this is all new to us, which is good and not so good at the same time. Go ahead.
Right. So you can read what's there. It's another Monday. It's another Monday, although it doesn't every day the past 4 weeks feel like Monday. And so I asked 2 questions. What were some of your weekend accomplishments? And what steps will you take towards reaching your goals this week? Let's make our goals public, at least in the confines of this channel, and hold each other accountable to keep taking steps forward. And I don't know, somewhere around a few hours later, somebody from the Sisters group created a channel for goals. And then E came behind that person and updated the channel because he liked the idea of goals, and the description with I gotta find it on here. What's it called? It's not goals of the day channel.
Goals of the day.
So the goals of the day channel is what it was called from the beginning, but the description says something about holding each other accountable. Well, that all came because of this post. I'm 98% sure. So, but the thing that
bothers you,
gets under my is because I'm all about attribution. I'm all about that. Because we come from a place and space here of shouting other people out to help other people get known for what they need to be known for, whatever that is, whatever their superpower is.
Okay.
And so when we talk about like me and the things that I'm good at, it's one thing for me to go out and say, look what I did. But it's another thing if somebody else says, look what April did. That's what I want for everybody. I want people to share other people, because it's going to feel and come across so much differently when somebody else says something. Like if Pat shouts somebody out on his show that he's partnered with, that he's interviewed, that's interviewed him, and he starts talking about that person, people who love Pat are going to naturally want to go check out that person he's talking about.
Amen to that. And I refer to this in our inner circle here, and this is new maybe for Christoph. I don't know if I've mentioned it while he's here. It's called the Google algorithm.
Right.
Because prior to Google saying, I don't care how many times April says how great she is with accountability groups, it would be nice to hear from the other people who say that April is great with accountability groups. There's more weight there. And so that's what Google did with links, all pointing to Pat. When people say, oh yeah, Pat is the great passive income guy, then when people look up passive income, Pat will come up number 1. So that's the Google algorithm, and we need to do that verbally, word of mouth, because one of our people that we follow, Christy Wright, she had a nice little, some people would call it a rant. I call it just reporting the news. There's some people out there that just take somebody else's meme or somebody else's quote and they just throw it on their social media and whatever on their website, making other people think that it was theirs. It's like, oh, you're so bright, you're so brilliant, you're so this and that, and don't give attribution. And we just think that those types of people, yeah, they've got a pride issue. That's ego issue first and foremost. So I just wanted to point that out there. Thoughts on
Or
that, Christoph?
it could have been something totally innocent, like, oh wow, I just got a great idea from a post I read, and they're just on autopilot, and this just not something that person's thinking about.
True that as well. So I will give them that. It's like they don't know what they don't know, right? They don't think this way, so they just think, "Oh, great idea from this person." I don't give them attribution. So somebody needs to say to that person, "It would be nice if you give attribution to the people because this is, blah blah blah." Christoph, your thoughts?
This is not going to come across as nice.
Be you, brother. That's what we want here is be you.
Okay. Boy, where do I go with this? Here's the deal, right? I have no idea. So, I have no idea where or how or what is going on in that person's life today. I have no idea, right? But what I will use is a story of a woman who I had an experience with at an event. So during the event, we were able to kind of celebrate successes. And so we would get in little, 5, 6, 7 people in a little circle, and they would all kind of like vocally tell the success to the group, and then the whole group would celebrate. And there would be, 50 groups around the room. I mean, take 1,000 people divided into groups of 7, and so it got really, really loud, and everybody was sharing their successes. And this sweet woman shared a success, and for whatever reason, it overpowered the group. And so then when it came time for, I want to bring people up on stage who have something amazing to share, right? So her group rallied behind her and got her up on stage. And so then from stage in front of 1,000 people, she gets to kind of share her success, what she wants to celebrate. And then the entire room goes absolutely nuts for her for about 5 to 10 seconds and celebrates her like mad, just totally overwhelms the person with kind of that energy, right? So we do this, and she ends up just streaming tears, and she kind of almost runs off the stage. At the next break, she comes up and she says, "I want to tell you that I lied. That thing that I wanted to celebrate is something that I wish would happen in my life, but it's never, and nothing anywhere close has ever happened. What do you think I should do? Do you think I should get back up and kind of own it?" And my feeling was no. You made a choice in the moment to say that to own that celebration as a lie. And now you have paid the consequence for it. You're always going to remember this experience. So here's what matters most. What are you going to do with it tomorrow? Because this moment's going to end, right? So April, this really sucks. It hurts. It's not cool. Okay. But what are you going to do about it tomorrow? Because what I can tell you is that I saw the channel, and I'm, this is just me, right? So I saw the channel on Friday. I had a conversation with E, and I literally called him out and said, "Hey, what are you doing every day?" I asked him to do a time blocking segment. I said, "I want to see it." I haven't seen it. Because what are you accountable for? So for a moment, until I actually read it, like when I got it in the email, I was like, "Oh, he's doing it because I told him to." But then I read it and I'm like, "Oh, well, somebody else told him to." Okay. Are we tied to the point, or are we tied to the movement?
True.
Right? Yes, it sucks. Not cool. I wish she would own it. But let's play devil's advocate, and let's say that for whatever reason, she needed that acknowledgement today. and it's gonna haunt her for however long. Or maybe, like Roy said, she's not even gonna remember, or she doesn't care. But you're smart enough, you're aware enough, right? I don't think it should bother you because you know where it came from.
No, but what?
It's okay.
My demons are bothered by it because I feel undervalued in so many areas because I'm for 4 years on this journey saying things, doing things that I've seen people rail against and then turn around and use it.
Fair.
And so it's just one more notch in that long list of things that, and I just said before, she could have just totally not even thought anything about it. It could be just a thing. But for me to see all the, what a great idea, and not like, oh yeah, I picked this up in the sisters group, and hey ladies, come join us, or just nothing. Sure. It was a very me-centered attitude is how it came across to me. Whether or not that's the truth, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's help her with this, Christoph, because this is where I'm going to say she gets stuck. So you and I both have the mindset that not just get over it, it's going to happen, this is just a part of life, this is the road to success, people are going to take your ideas, no one has a patent on ideas, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. So that's one way to look at it. That doesn't work with April because she needs more of a why. Once I think a person understands their big why for something, they'll be able to move beyond it. So I always say, is your why bigger than your but? And in this case, April's why, this person did what they did, is not yet bigger than her but, B-U-T, the excuse that she feels undermined, she feels undervalued, she feels all this other stuff. And I think this is a great opportunity for both you and I to do what I think you and I do naturally, and that is to help people to get past their stinking thinking and junk in the trunk. Because really that's what it is. There's nothing she can do to keep other people, she doesn't have this kind of control, to keep other people from sharing her best ideas, thoughts, and blanks, whatever they happen to be. Are you with me on the same page, Christoph?
I am. But but how do you right? Like it comes down to attribution. Like it means a lot that you started the sisters group. It means a lot that you are doing everything that you can to make it a place where women feel empowered. I have 3 girls. I have a wife. This is wonderful, right? Like the world is not a great place for a woman. It's really not. Go back and watch. My kids and I on this whole break, we watched. I'm gonna get totally spaced. Diane Keaton, Baby Talk. I don't know something. I mean, she inherited a baby or something like that. I'm trying to remember the movie. It was, probably from the 80s. Gosh, what was the name of it? And she ended up making like baby food. It was a wonderful, wonderful, empowering movie. Now I'm going to have to look. But the point of it is during it, the conversations that men had in the movie to her as a woman, just absolutely disgusting. Like it literally made me sick to my stomach, to think that it was okay to treat a woman or even to speak about it, right? Like it was just I'll find it and I'll send it to you. But here's my point. You have grown up in a world in which that's kind of been the way that it has been. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. What would be I guess. So there's 2 components here, right? You've got to look at it from your standpoint and her standpoint. I would almost send her a private message and be like, hey, that was so cool that you posted all that stuff that we did in the sisters group. on the main channel. That was really neat. Thanks for doing that. Almost kind of like a, thanks for not, attributing it to me. Thanks for posting it as your own. Thanks. That's part of, I don't know that I don't know what way I would go.
I wasn't going to go anyway, but when I heard you say what you said earlier, I was like, just everything in me was like, yeah, that was because of me.
Yeah.
Because you didn't know. You didn't know.
Yeah. Right.
That was just, I just needed to make myself known because I value what I put out there because I'm investing time to do it. And that person didn't even engage in that thread, took it and ran with it. So it wasn't even important enough to engage with the people that were already there. It went global. So
what would be wrong in the sisters group? I don't know if you have this, but I would be willing to bet money. What Roy, what did you say? Dollars to donuts? Is that what
I do. That's my favorite bet. Yes.
Dollars to donuts. That other women in the sisters group feel exactly the same way you do. That they bust their ass, they try to do something good for someone else, and then someone else kind of sneaks in and takes credit for it, and they don't get it attributed to it. I would be willing to bet that happens. Dollars to donuts.
Happens to lots of us every day, everywhere.
Yeah, I think it happens more times than not. I think the 80-20 rule might apply here, that 80 times out of 100.
Why can't that be a topic of discussion in the sisters group?
Yeah, I don't think April would want to do that.
Okay.
But that's a great point, and so let me do this really quick because I can. I want to add what I found, okay? But April, tell Christoph what your solution is.
Yes, please.
And
run away fast.
Yeah, so just share that, and then I'm going to bring Christy right into it, and it's like a couple minutes in. I want to like play off of what she already says about this because I do believe this is an injustice, but I also believe that we don't have the control to justify it. But April, please unload what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and what your retribution is for somebody who does something like this. Do you want to go to her house and shoot her in the foot, or what?
Y'all, I was just making a comment, and you have completely taken it to a whole nother level. I'm done with this conversation.
Okay.
I was just venting. I'm good.
Here's the movie. If I can share that. It's called Baby Boom.
Baby Boom.
Baby Boom with Diane Keaton.
I would probably fall asleep watching it because I fall asleep during every movie.
It is or was on Netflix or Amazon. I'm not sure how my kids found it, but we ended up watching it, and we have a fair amount of time now, so it worked out great. So tie us off.
My issues with women and the way that society, I don't know. I don't know what the perspective is. You hear a lot about the way that women are treated, like in the workplace. They don't get a fair shake. For me, I feel like for a lot of women, the reason why they see themselves as disempowered, as less than, lacking confidence, mommy issues would be the number one. If Family Feud were on right now, it'd be ding, 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 number one, mommy issues.
That was 39 points right there.
Yeah. Maybe even like 58 points.
58 points. We changed the number. You tell Steve Harvey we just changed the number. It's 58 points.
It's up there. It's up there. So that's like my thing. Roy's always like, do you know what your signature talk is, April? Mommy issues. Right?
Mommy issues. Okay.
Mother-daughter relationships.
And let me explain what April means by that. So when I met her 4 years ago, 98% of her decision making, and we know we all make like hundreds, if not thousands of decisions on a daily basis, were tied to her mommy and the issues of life that mommy put on her that April wasn't even aware of. She did not know that
Mhm.
thought that her mom planted in her subconscious mind in the first 7 years of her life was not true. She believed it was true. She didn't know how to evaluate or assess if that wasn't true or not. And then when I challenged her, I said, April, do you believe everything you think? April, do you believe what you just said is true or truth? Because I want to challenge you on that. And so when I challenged her, she started to realize, oh my goodness, because I asked her, where did this come from? Where did this
Mhm.
come from? Where did you learn this? And she's like, my mom. I hear my mom's voice. 42 days into our relationship, I didn't put her in a master class. I didn't put her in my online course, but I did because I know that I have a superpower, if you will, to help people to become unstuck because all they have to do is talk with me for 15 minutes and I can tell you right now where you're stuck because you believe this to be true. So stop believing that and you're good to go. But it's not always that easy. So anyway, 42 days into our relationship, she says to me, hey, Roy, I'm April 2.0. I said, what?
I
She
like
said,
it.
yeah. My April 1.0 thoughts were this with my mom and my mommy issues, but now that
Mhm.
you've shared all this other stuff with me, I know that the decision I'm about to make is an April 2.0 decision, and I love that. And so we documented all this stuff because that's what I did initially. Every conversation we had, I documented it by recording it and then taking pieces from it and so on and so forth. But it's led her here. I say, but it's led her here, and she still has mommy issues, and she still just said that. And I think what she put on the table is a big deal because she shared that with me earlier today. She consciously or subconsciously shared it with you, and you shared that story with us, which is amazing. I'm going to use that story. That's amazing. That woman had to own it. And then when she asked, what should I do with it? You said, just own it. You don't need to do anything
You
with
better
it.
give him attribution when you tell that story.
Oh my goodness! Did you see me give Christoph attribution the first time? He wasn't even in the Slack group yet, and I'm like ringing his bells for him, and because that's what I do. So because of that, I want you all to listen to this not rant by Christy Wright. I love
I heard it
Christy.
already, but I'll listen to it again.
Stick with us because Christoph's going to help us to unpack this for you because you're still not yeah, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
I
But
don't. It's 20 after 11 and it's a work night.
okay, just this
Yeah.
and then you're off. And then Christoph and I will finish because we got some good stuff here. You don't even have to be here. So good night, April. So here we go. Let me put this up here and let me do this and let me do this and let me play it because this is really good. Listen to this.
Something that I have seen happen again and again and again on social media. Here's the thing. I'm scrolling through Instagram or I'm scrolling through Twitter or whatever, but particularly Instagram, I've noticed this. And I will see a really catchy graphic. It's a cool quote. It's a great idea. It's really interesting. It's memorable. It's great content. You're like, wow, that is so clever. That is so well done. So you like it or you comment or you save it or you repost it. You just think it's awesome. Well, then later on in the day, I'm scrolling and I see it again. The exact same graphic, but it's from someone else. But they didn't give credit to that person. And maybe that person didn't give credit to wherever they found it. And so I'm like, that's weird that we've now got two of the same quote, same design, same graphic, but both people are sharing it as if it's their own. That's weird. Maybe they're friends and they agreed on it. Cool, no big deal. Later on in the day, I'm scrolling again. Same quote, same graphic, same design, different person sharing it as if it's their own. A few days later, it pops up again from someone else. Maybe a week later, it pops up again in my feed from someone else. Now, here's the thing, y'all. I know that when you see something on social media, it's really tempting to think, that's awesome. I want to share it with my friends. I want to share it with my tribe. Absolutely. I think you should. But I want to give you a challenge. I want to give you a challenge to have the discipline to either do a little digging to find out where that quote or that content originated so that you can give credit to that person, or just acknowledge that you don't know. Maybe you've seen it several places, so you think, hey, it's a free-for-all. It's just free content. It came from the content fairy, so we can all share it. You probably can. But I'm not really interested in how it does damage to the person that created it originally. I'm interested in what that does to you. What that does to people's perception of you when they see something being shared by you as if it's yours when they know it's not. Because why? because they've seen it 5 other times that day from other people. Have the integrity, have the discipline to either create your own content, or when you share content, give credit to the original source. And maybe you don't know where it originated, totally fine. Just acknowledge that. Say, hey guys, I found this on the internet. Crazy, right? I don't know who started it, but man, isn't this clever? What you're doing is you are acknowledging that it's not yours. It doesn't really matter whose it is, because if it's all over the internet and it's spreading like wildfire, it must be awesome, and maybe you can't find the original source. I get it. But it's really important for you to acknowledge that you didn't create it. You're not sharing something to give people the impression that you created something you didn't create. You thought of something you didn't think about, that you designed something that you didn't design. I care more about your integrity than I do about that original source getting credit, because maybe you can't find that. But you know what you can control? You can control what you put out from you and the impression and perception that you are creating in your world, in your online universe for your fans and followers. May seem like a small thing, but I don't think it is. I think your integrity has incredible value. I think small things like this either build trust with your tribe or break it. I remember seeing whenever I was.
Okay, so I know what she's going to say. The last part here is not all that relevant to what we're doing here. So,
Okay.
Christoph, what did you think about how she unpacked this, listening to that for the very first time, knowing that April has this issue, and it kind of eats at her? I know it does. It kind of eats at her. She said, oh, I don't want to talk about this anymore. And I get it, because that's what she does. She retreats. You know, she does the silent treatment, the cold shoulder, and everything else, but that doesn't solve it for her. So she'll come back to this tomorrow and listen to it. She's getting ready for bed and all of that. What can we do to help her? Because I really know that I've said just about everything that I can say. Maybe you'll say the same thing, and she'll go like, wow, that never hit me like it hit me before, because that's what happens, right? When spouses tell you something, then someone else says it, and it's like revelation from God. And so help me with this. What did you hear that Christy Wright said? Because I'm giving attribution to Christy. She's given us a challenge. Give credit as a discipline. Have the discipline to say, I don't know where this came from, or I do know, and I want to give it, because, yeah, you might look good to 1 or 2 people or 20 or 30 people or beyond for a little while, but your credibility and your integrity is at stake here, and that's what I heard Christy say. So did you hear the same thing, and then take off from there?
So, you know, it's interesting, the question, right? The question that she is asking is, you know, do you have the integrity to own what, you know, it's not even own what you own. Do you have the integrity to, if it's not yours, to vocally say that it's not yours? So, we live in a sharing society. You used to be able to have your grandma's recipe, and it meant a lot. Like, my wife has her grandmother's recipe in a recipe book, and it is the Cochemilio's recipe. I mean, it is a family recipe all the way from Italy. They had, you know, it is what it is, right? Well, at some point, I'm not saying this from my wife or for, you know, anyone, but I could use one of my daughters as an example. At some point, because of how great our meatballs are, I could see one of my daughters down the road when they're older sharing that recipe to their friends after their friends kind of came through it. And I don't believe that my daughter would say, oh, that's my great grandmother's recipe. I don't know that she would, if that would be the first response to be able, you know, because I think people as a whole are selfish. So if we can be, if something is attributable and we can receive it as attributed to us, our first response is thanks, without even really thinking about, like, well, wait a minute, that wasn't mine, right? So you have saving face if you go into kind of like a communications type of a thought process, where a lot of people post things on social media because they want to get acknowledged as, someone that's important. And they're not really worried whether it's theirs or not. I think Christy says a lot about how, if you see the same quote 5 times, it becomes very difficult to be like, oh, well, this person certainly isn't original. I totally agree with that statement and the integrity aspect of it. But I would say that the ability that society has as a whole to act and live in integrity is probably 1% of the population.
True that.
I don't think most people care enough to attribute it to someone else. And what I mean by that is, let's say that, and I'm gonna use this as an example. Let's say that the person who started the Slack group, right, had no intentions of getting named as the person that created it. They saw April's post and they thought, wow, this is a great idea. Everybody should do this. So they did it. So they posted it and they're like, we're going to have a goals of the day channel. Woohoo! Right? And then the leader of the Slack group says, you know what? I think we should give so-and-so credit. And so he does. And now maybe that person has a little bit of hesitation of saying, oh man, now I have to kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, he's already told everybody that I did it, but I didn't do it. So then I almost like look like a fool, because then it looks like I stole it from somebody else because I have to acknowledge it. Like, you see the wicked circle?
Yes.
Right?
Totally.
Here's my thought is this. People are going to steal your best stuff.
Totally.
Hands down.
That is a given.
Every day. Be flattered that they do.
Imitation is the sincerest form, right?
I realize that there is that does not make it better. I realize that doesn't fight off the demons, right? But if you've got a demon saying, hey, you know what? Like, that totally sucks that you didn't get acknowledged. Well, with the same breath, then you should probably have a demon on the other side that says, hey, it is pretty awesome that being awesome, because yeah, they didn't attribute it to you. So what? We still totally took your idea. That means whatever you had to say actually was of value to them that day.
So
they heard what you said.
Yes.
And they thought enough of it to do more with it.
I like that. I like that.
It's a form of flattery, which is really hard because you're not actually getting acknowledged as the person, right?
True that.
But the greatest form of flattery is knowing that you did something great and not being acknowledged about it.
So I think we hit on something. Okay. So I may not have voiced this to her this way, but I certainly agree with what you're saying. It's, for me personally, I see people using my stuff and not attributing me, because I attribute a lot of people. So there's a one-liner for this. Thought there wasn't? Yes, there is. John Maxwell says, some of my best thinking has been done by other people.
Yep.
And I don't always make the attribution, because sometimes I don't remember whose one-liner this was, because 99, well, maybe 95% of my one-liners come from other people. And I've made up a few on my own, but they're a combination of 2 or 3 or more people that I've said, oh, if I say it this way, it's better than what they've already said, or I modify it a little bit to make it easier for me to remember. And I say that, especially in my text. I say that this was said by John Maxwell and I modified it. This was said by Maya Angelou and I modified it. And how many times have you heard me say, oh yeah, this is so-and-so's quote, or that's so-and-so's quote? So,
but that's your personality, though. That's how you roll. You do that on purpose because you want the same done to you.
Yes, and if I do it because I want to lead people into also doing that and saying the same thing. And then I don't, personally, I got enough thick skin, if you want to say that way. It doesn't matter if somebody attributes me or not. You've done it several times. Roy, it's like what you said, dollars to donuts. Or Roy, you've said this. And I love that. But if you never said that and you made the same sort of comments, I'm good with that. I'm not going to go like, Christoph, you didn't give me any. So I don't think that this is a bad thing for April. I just think this is a work through thing for her. At one point, she's going to realize, oh my goodness, I shouldn't stop saying all this great stuff so that people steal it from me, and then I feel bad behind it because I don't want to do that. But what you just said, acknowledge the fact that people are going to share and steal your best stuff, and the way you should look at it is, oh my goodness, they said it. It was my source. It was me as the source, and I should be puffed up in a good, healthy way to say, my stuff is really good. Other people want to share it. Not give me attribution. That's okay. I'm beyond that. As long as another person gets blessed by it, I really don't care who says it. That kind of thinking.
You and I have come to that point because of a myriad of different things. These words are right. It is cruel to undervalue the way someone feels.
You got to break that apart, because I can see people right now hearing you say that, using their own brain and going like, yeah, you got the wrong idea here. So Christoph's going to unpack it.
April feels the way that April feels.
Correct.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with how she feels.
Absolutely.
And to diminish how she feels.
Okay, I get it now.
Or dismiss it with just a statement like, well, it really
get over it. Yeah, it should be
flattering to you.
Right.
It totally robs her of any chance of like self-reflection, because then it's like the double negative, right? Like it puts her into like, oh, you shouldn't be thinking that way, and you're an idiot because you were.
Right. Yes.
Well, no, that's for whatever reason, for all of her life experiences, that's where she's at right now today.
Correct.
So acknowledge it as what it is.
And that is a positive that she feels this way, and let's help her through it in any way we can.
Well, and then ask if she wants help through it.
Well, being her husband, I don't have to, simply because I know she needs it, and it just reflects back on me, because this all is like you spill over on the other person when, let's see, I know there's a one-liner, I'll come up with it, but I get what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Wait for that other person to say to you, hey, I want you to help me and walk me through this, because I'm stuck so many times when it comes to this. And somebody did it again tomorrow. Somebody did it again the next 2 or 3 days from now. And she's still going to seethe on the inside. And I don't want her to, because that's the type of person she is. She'll back away from it. I don't want to deal with this because I don't have any control over it. I don't know what to do. And I'm just going to let myself feel this way every time somebody steals something and doesn't, make attribution to me. So I don't want that to happen for her. So in her case, your advice would not be good. But someone else's case, when they're not yet ready, and they need a few more hours, days, weeks before they go, okay, help me with this because I can't stand it anymore. If anybody steals my content, again, I'm going to feel this way and I want to do that. And it's negative, right, for them. And then it spills over on the people that they love, because she knows she can say this to me. And I'm the kind of guy, and I'm sure you're the kind of guy that says, wait a second, why do you keep going down this road and you don't fix what you can fix? Because this is fixable. Yes. Well, you and I fixed it. If we ever thought, well, let me ask you, did you ever think, oh my goodness, that person stole this thing from me, didn't give me attribution, and I just want to kick a wall?
No, because I never really thought that much about it.
Me either.
But because, again, we all have things that are important, and those are the things that are on our radar, versus this is on her radar. This is important to her. And the importance of it needs to be acknowledged. And until I'll give, perfect example. If it bugs her, somebody said this about this. So I'll say this about the quarantine thing. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I think it's a true statement. somebody said, how long is this all going to last? And I don't remember who said it. Can't attribute it to anybody. And I'm sure I'm slaughtering the way that I'm repeating it, but they said it'll last as long as people let it last.
Ooh, good point. Yes.
Until they're tired of it, they'll either kind of, some people are just going to live with it from day one and be like, okay, this is the way it is. Other people are going to be like, absolutely not. I am going to go and I am going to picket and I am going to fight and I'm going to argue and I'm going to whatever. I don't know which one is right. I don't know which one is wrong. I don't care because they don't directly affect me.
I love that. I love that.
Do anything about it, right?
It's out of your control.
How she feels is how she feels, right? So telling her to, understand it a different way, well, she can hear that, she can accept that, she can acknowledge that, but whether she truly believes that,
that's the key. Yeah, that's the key.
Really up to her, right?
Right.
And no matter how many times I say it, it might not make it so.
Exactly.
Like, it might come to the point where she finally says either A, you know what, I don't really care anymore. I've kind of gotten over it. It has happened so many times.
Yes.
Whatever. Or, you know what? I'm going to call what's her name. She keeps posting all my favorite stuff. and again, she probably, I don't think April would ever do this, right? But literally, reach out and be like, hey, like, is there any way on the next one when you post my best stuff that you could at least like tag me in it? You don't have to say it was mine, but just tag me. Because then people will probably see that it was all mine, right? Like there's the two trains of thought, and then there are 18 million trains in between.
Well,
right?
I
like
think
you and I have a way of doing things, and we think we're right.
Right.
April has a way of doing things for her, and it might not work, and it might not feel good, but to her, that's how she does it. And so that's where that, we need to acknowledge and, without diminishing it is
correct.
Hey, that sucks. I hate that. That's how
that's feels, empathy. Right? Yes. Like, get down into, oh
my gosh. Like, this, you know what? I can't believe that, this person did that. And then be like, almost, well, how can I help you through it? And the answer might be, you can't. Cool. Then
right.
I'm not going to worry about it.
Right.
Because I can't, it's a lot like a cat, right? And I treat women a lot like cats. I have never been able to get a cat to come unless there is food, right? Like, come here. Could you get a cat to come over to you? No.
Well, I have a one-liner for that, Christoph.
A cat comes over to you when a cat wants to come over to you.
Amen to that. So my one-liner, exactly. My one-liner for that is, here's the difference between cats and dogs. You can tell a dog to do something, and he or she does it. You tell a cat to do something, and they take a message or they take a memo.
Yeah.
So they're going to do it when they're going to do it. Exactly. And I love your example of, a person who receives no attribution for their good stuff, their good thinking, their good memes, their good throwing out to the public, social media, and all of that. Here's how I think. So a lot of people in my sharing my dream, which we all should. Some people say, don't share your dream. Mm-hmm. I just say, don't share your dream with the wrong people, but do share your dream with the right people. And I can go into that, but I won't right now. Share your dream with the right people because you need other people to have a shared dream to help you, to be a part of all of that. So I've shared my dream about my people search engine so many times, and I've heard so many times from people with a mindset that isn't mine or yours who say, Roy, aren't you afraid people are going to steal your idea? And I reply with, they're going to steal my idea. If they think it's a good idea, they're going to want to do it. But the problem is they don't have me at the helm of that idea, that concept, and actually executing that. They may think, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. People search engines are going to use their brain and they're going to use their self. And I don't care because I have no control over what people do with the words that come out of my mouth. Mm-hmm. And so like you, I just kind of dismiss it. It's like, yeah, that's going to happen. No big deal. People are going to rail against me. I'm going to have my haters. I'm going to have my trolls. People are going to say that's not a good idea. How can you show up and teach social media and or live streaming and you don't show up on camera? It's like, I dismiss those people. It's like, I don't have to answer you. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And the people who reply and respond rather than react to who I am and how I show up and, you know, the culture and the environment I'm building, that's all I want. If you need me to show up to trust me, because I've heard that a lot of times, well, Roy, I can't trust you if you don't show your face. You got to go on video and you got to show my face and I can trust you. And I go, no, that you're not going to trust me if I show my face. You are just trolling me and you're just hating on me to get me to do what you want to do, because now I don't play that game. This is my house. This is my blank, and I'm good with this. And so I've had my haters and trolls, and this is the way I handle them. And people who say, aren't you afraid somebody's going to steal your stuff? I'm not afraid. They are going to steal my stuff. Now what? So those people have a limited belief. They have a scarcity belief, like, I can only be the one who does this idea, and if someone else does it, that's it. It ruins it for me. Hashtag no. Christoph?
Yeah, I agree, dude.
That's the way that we all need to look at it. It's unfortunate that April doesn't just yet, but, you know, between your words here, because she's going to watch this, and she's going to listen to this.
I'm going to challenge you, though. Is it unfortunate?
Absolutely.
Is it to you?
Okay,
me,
you're right.
Unfortunate.
I'm going to make a new decision right now. You're absolutely correct. I used the wrong words.
Statement to say that, right? Like, I don't know that that's fair, because we all process things in a different manner.
True that. Yes.
And so to you, you wouldn't process it the same way, right? And I think that right there is exactly that's what I meant about validating her the way that
that's
she
the
feels.
personal growth she has to go to get to the other side, if she ever decides to get to the other side, because she can stay here for as long as she wants to, and that's fine by me. And when she spills over on me, I'll just say to her, stop spilling over on me. And then she'll do, yeah, because, you know, I got to set boundaries, right? Brene Brown says.
Totally, right? But
you know, it's one thing to do something and then to complain about it is a total different thing. It's like when I hear people do something, right, say something, and then complain behind the consequences that come with it, I have to think dumb on purpose. Sorry, that's just who I am. I can't tolerate that. I just have to set a boundary. It's like, no, I don't want that in my head. I don't want that in my psyche. You know what I'm saying? Because the people that you hang around the most, right? Jim Rohn says the 5 people that you hang around the most, you're going to be that average of that person, not only financially, but the way you think about things. And I don't want that kind of stinking thinking junk in the trunk around me, even though, and you are very valid in your point, to her, it may not be stinking thinking and junk in the trunk. It's just something that is hers that we allow her to have, but not necessarily in our environment. Are we in agreement on that?
Yeah, that's pretty dang close.
Yeah. So to wrap things up, final thoughts on not only helping April, but what we've done tonight. And the main thing here is, I think that you and I and April, all 3 of us, have built some sort of rapport that goes well beyond the average bear rapportness, if you allow me to say it that way, when people connect through the same tribe leader who happens to be Pat Flynn, because of who shouted you out to us. And we had just met Corey just a few days earlier, and we respected him. And it's like, if he's shouting somebody out, I want to see who it is. And wow, what a connection, in my humble opinion, I've made. I don't know, you are free to say whatever connection you feel with us, but you're not the average bear connection, Christoph, and you're certainly not the person who says, oh, what do you want me to do on your show? And why do you want me to do this? And I'm going to feel like really bad and embarrassed and stuff if I don't know all the things I need to know. And I'm like, brother, just come on the show and you'll find out. Let it fly, jump off the cliff, build your parachute on the way down. If you don't like it, go away. If you do, come on back. It's really that simple. That's my mindset. So just final thoughts on what you're feeling here in light of. So talk to Pat. Say, Pat, here's what I've built, listening to you. And then that Roy guy came in, and that April girl came in, and that Corey guy came in. And now here's where we are. Thanks to you, Pat, blah, blah, blah. Because go beyond average bearness. And I'm going to give you the floor. And when you're done, we'll just end the show.
Well, boy, I think with anyone, I said this in the beginning, and I'll end with this. is we vote with our time. So if I choose to spend my time with April and Roy and with Corey or Pat or whoever, I have made my vote. And I think that from a standpoint of where I want to spend my time, well, obviously, you know, Pat, I think you've got a great, you have something that I want. I'm not 100% sure exactly what it is, but I think that I want to invest my time here and find out. So I hope you guys had a great night. I hope that as you watch this on the replay, that you gained some value. You gained some value from what April said. You gained some value from what Roy said, and you gained some value from what I said. And if nothing else, then maybe it sparked an idea. If none of what we said was valuable, maybe you came up with your own idea that was valuable to you. And for that, I hope you guys have a great night. This is the Pat Flynn After Show Afterglow.